Welcome everyone to the grand finals of the EMEA side of things here for Nations Royale. I'm Toby, joined by Saint, and Saint, we have got hopefully what will be a very interesting match coming up.
Yeah, we've said that a lot the last 2 days. We've thought games are going to be close. We've had 3 3-0s and a 4-2. So yesterday we saw a grand final that was a lot closer than the games before it. So maybe that's a sign of things to come. And based off what we just saw from Russia, I think maybe they might have something to bring against Turkey.
Yeah, there's a chance to just 3-0 Ukraine for those of you guys who didn't watch that game. Now, the changes from last game to this game, other than, of course, Ukraine being replaced by Turkey, is that we're playing a best of 7 and not a best of 5. You can see here, these are your brackets for how teams have made it to where we are now. It's been a pretty interesting transition all the way through. Again, Turkey and Russia has played before. They played last week where Turkey 3-0'd Russia, but I'm not too certain that's going to happen this time around.
No, I definitely think with the momentum coming from the hot 3-0 against Ukraine, you'd expect that Russia are going to come out of the gates all guns blazing. And I think game 1 is going to be really telling over how the whole series is going to go.
You'll have to imagine. Let's see. We can. I thought we were gonna get a look at the other side of things too, but I guess it doesn't really matter because we are in the finals. No, who cares about the low bracket anyway, right? Who cares about that when we are headed into the finals? You can see already below the vetoes have been made. We're gonna start off on Erangel, then we're gonna head over to Sanok, then Miramar, then Mikendi, then Erangel, then Miramar, then Mikendi again. So only one Sanok, but we're getting Sanok early.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably going to be either the turning point for a team. Let's say Turkey comes out and wins Erangel. Sanok needs to be that game for Russia then to turn the series around, because it does play so differently. As we said through the whole of Nations Royale, it really is a very unique map for this game mode. I mean, often we see a phase 1 or a phase 2 ending where we just have one big gunfight happen. So I think if one team could take both those first 2 maps, I'm kind of nervous for the other team in getting anywhere in this series. But yesterday we said the exact same thing in Brazil versus Argentina, where Brazil went 2-0 up. We then went, I think it was actually Sanok that was the third map that turned into that turning point, where Argentina then won 2 in a row before Brazil eventually closed out the series. So maybe there's an opportunity here for the Sanok to have an earlier impact on the series, and at least push us to map 5, and maybe later on.
And we'll have to see as the games progress. For those of you guys out there in the chat, maybe we should ask you who are you planning on winning today. I gotta say, just off of what we've seen, I feel like you'd be maybe a gambling man not to pick Turkey as your team to win the overall tournament. I don't know. I can't see them not winning. But having said that, with what we saw with Russia against Ukraine early, and also what we've seen with Russia and other matches previously, I like how fast they are reacting in certain situations. I feel like that's been where Turkey has had the edge against a lot of other teams, because teams simply didn't react to whether it was Turkey engaging or Turkey rotating, what it was. They would always be one step ahead. I feel like that's maybe the one thing where Russia can kind of follow. But having in the back of my mind the 3-0 that we didn't see, but in fact they got 3-0'd, that's also going to have an impact.
And I think to put into perspective just how dominant Turkey have been in Nations Royale, they're back-to-back champions. In the last 2 series, in the last 2 seasons of Nations Royale, not only have they not lost a series against another team, they've not dropped a map. They've won every map they've played for 2 seasons of Nations Royale now. So coming into this, anything other than a 4-0 is really impressive from Russia.
It is very absurd. What does that make for a streak then?
It's got to be at least 50 maps by now. It's probably even more, probably closer to 60 or 70.
That is absurd.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I think actually absurd.
I think when if you just went off face value and you looked at this tournament, purely by countries, at the top of PUBG, realistically, there's one Turkish player in Iro, and maybe DA is sort of hanging around the sort of maybe tier 2, on the edges of tier 1 PUBG. Yes, they were in Pro League, but they never really had that success that we see regions like Finland, regions like Russia, like Ukraine have, where they have those teams right at the top. We just saw a Ukrainian team win in PCS Season 1. So there's that. It's almost surprising to see a region like Turkey be such a dominant force. But then when you look at the team and you look at how many players on there have not a tier 1 experience, but tier 2, tier 3 experience, players that have at least made it to international tournaments, maybe not necessarily done them so well, the fact that all 32 players on that Turkish team are at that sort of level means that the depth on the team is why they're doing so well.
Yeah, I mean, that's I think we were talking about it too, right? How you would rather have 20 tier 2 players than 5 tier 1 players in a tournament like this, because it's going to be your masses. It's going to be, you would rather have like the average info be decent across everyone so they know how to react, so that you can always give a command or however your communication may be on a team and know for a fact that everyone's going to understand what's being said, rather than hope, I'd say, that that the people you're kind of trying to work with do what you want them to do, except for the 5 people you know will.
Yeah, and when you get that big 20 versus 20 gunfight that's become so sort of traditional, Nations Royale now, if only 5 of your players are having an impact in that gunfight, you are just going to lose it. You need all 20 guns lighting the other team up, doing damage, not necessarily getting kills, but as long as those players are putting pressure on, having an impact on the game, it makes it so much easier for you to win those big gunfights that are really at the turning points for all these series.
Yeah. We are just about ready to get started with the game. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be damn exciting as well. Who is going to win it? I couldn't tell you even if I wanted to. I still have my money on Turkey, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think coming into this, the first 2 maps, I think, will really tell the story of this, because if Russia can't get something going on either of the 2 sort of play styles, Erangel, where you have the rotation focus, you have the high ground focus, Sanhok, where it's all about that big gunfight. Yeah. If Turkey wins both those maps, and in both the 2 styles that we see pretty much dominate Nations Royale, then I kind of feel like Turkey's going to run away with the series. But if Russia can at least get one, come into the Miramar game being 1-1, then I think when we go to maybe the later Vikendi games, which seems to be a bit of a mix of the 2 styles, where maybe we go back to Erangel, there's an opportunity where, let's say they get a nice circle and they can use that. And that's how they then progress into this. But yeah, we look at these teams and look how stacked they both are.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's wait no further, because the teams are here. You can see the rosters right in front of you. And there is, if you don't know everyone, which I wouldn't expect the average viewer to do, then I'm going to say, have you followed PUBG just somewhat? Then you will have a memory of at least half the players on like every team.
Yeah, and you've got Russia, you've got Na'Vi players, you've got some from Northern Lights, you've got the Tornado Energy guys, the players that really, at least recently, have been right at the top of PUBG. But then you look at Turkey and, bar maybe Ira and bar the occasional DA overperformance, they're not necessarily right at the top. But then you notice that you've got Besiktas, you've got Istanbul Wildcats, you've got Etket, you've got Fenerbahce. All these teams have been in and around that tier 2 level, in and around contenders when we had the Pro League structure, So the fact that there's so many competitive teams on this Turkish roster is really why they're so scary.
Yeah, it's a terrifying team to go up against, and as we can see, we are getting things started. Turkey seems like they'll be headed over towards the east with Russia focusing more on the western side. Will that mean a easy peasy lemon squeezy for Russia should the circles go towards the west? I don't think so.
Well, we saw exactly that when Russia was playing. Who was it yesterday? They played brain fart. Was it Finland? Yeah, it was Finland, right? We watched where Finland had control of the radar tower, and Russia were just able to crash it and take it off them. So maybe they know that that's the sort of, the fact that they were the team that was aggressing on the Western Circle means that maybe when they're defending it, they know what to look for. But yeah, I mean, the one, I think, big important point here is if this now goes to Military Island, Turkey is in such a good position to get down there.
Yeah, we'll know in just about 5 seconds' time. It's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be extremely difficult. I was going to say no matter where it goes, this one is going to prove tricky as well for all. I would say, though, that circle-wise, you'd have to give the upper hand in this one to Russia, given that they already have players on the northern side of the river.
Yeah, I think in terms of getting first dibs on the positions you want late game, yeah, for sure. Russia has the advantage. They can get up towards that shooting range area and start to stack up, maybe towards the plane, which we've seen be quite a strong position in these circles in the past. But there is still that opportunity where that big group of Turkish players around Rostock and around school can at least get some presence in the circle. Yeah, maybe not necessarily set up in the middle, because if they go up there and the whole Russian team crashes them, then it's going to be really rough. But they can at least make a bit of inroads. Maybe 150 meters south of shooting range. They can start to get control of some of those compounds, and at least provide some sort of way into the circle later on. So it's a nice circle. I think if we're looking at making this as even as possible, this circle is pretty great for that, because it allows both teams in. And it's also an area of the map where, because you have the forest on that big hill, it's very easy for you to fight your way through it. So I think it's in terms of having a good place to fight. If you go to a field, it's just about who's got the most smokes. But if you go into a big forest, if you go to a hilltop, it's all about who uses that cover the best in those gunfights.
Exactly. Well, we'll see. There's one of your hills around the plane crash area. It's I don't want to go out already now and say that's where the fight is going to take place, because, to be fair, we don't know, and it could be in Rostock. I mean, we've seen enough weird things. We've seen enough weird things that even though sometimes we try and predict things, it's just not possible to know.
Yeah, and I think it's all about really phase 3 and phase 4 is where the sort of crunch time is, because phase 1, phase 2, you can posture, you can start prodding the defensive line of the other team, but it's not that important. There's generally enough room that both teams can just sit in there and just they have some presence. But as soon as the circle starts to half in size around that phase 3, phase 4 time, one team, generally speaking, will sort of come out as the defensive team, and the other one will need to make a play. Both these teams have looked really good as the team making a play. So I'm kind of curious on whether neither team necessarily wants to be the defensive team and instead wants to be proactive and take those gunfights when they want. Because if you look at the past series, if you look at the games we saw over the last 2 days, both teams have been at their best when they're aggressing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how do you do that? How do you determine which team is more aggressive if they're both aggressive?
I think then that's where the circles can maybe change that. If one team sets up in the middle of the circle and then gets a shift, they kind of have to adopt that defensive style, right? And I think maybe the important factor will be which team is better at that style, because I think across this series, across the best of 7, we're going to see both teams have an opportunity to be that aggressive team. And I think the way that we're going to define who wins this series is the team that does get the circle, that does get the defensive position. Whichever one of these two teams is better at that is one that's going to win for me.
Well, only time will tell. Russia getting looted up. You can see Battle in the captain for the Russian team here, getting all ready and set to rotate now. What does Russia do? Because we saw them play earlier today up against Ukraine in a north side Erangel circle as well, which they ended up winning, given that they didn't have the better position in the early game. Does Russia try to play for a center, knowing that that's probably going to force them to be the team, or do they stay out and kind of make plays later on?
Yeah, but you say they were, they got bad early circles, but then they had that nice shift where it came towards the directly towards where they were playing, and Ukraine was forced to push down into the hill. And I think Russia really showed themselves as a good defensive team there, because they recognized that the big fight was going to happen. And instead of, if you go back to Finland, go back to Netherlands, who, when they saw that big fight coming, they started to back off and reposition. Russia just said, yeah, all right, let's fight. And then, they just drove up to the hill, set up a defensive line, forced Ukraine into it. And I think they were forced to defend, but they were still able to set up that big 20 versus 20 gunfight that they got and use their gun skill to win it out. So I kind of feel like if Russia set up in the middle of the circle, yes, it gives Turkey the opportunity to be the proactive team. But I think from what we've seen, Russia are more than capable to be a strong defense.
Well, we're about to find out. I think the teams are getting closer and closer to one another, and as we can see, the circles closing on as well. For those of you guys out there watching who don't know, we're not playing the super settings. The circle settings here are somewhat different, so it won't be the exact same circle time. It won't be the exact same circle damage to know either. And also, the phase 4 shift doesn't necessarily have to shift away from water, which does tend to make for some pretty interesting situations.
Yeah, it gives us a lot of randomness, I think, which I really like, because if the circle gets predictable, it becomes into that position where one team just sort of drives to where it's going to end and just sits there, and the other team gets, the team that doesn't get there first really struggles. So like here right now, I think we sort of expect it will come towards the hilltop where Russia is set up, but it's still it's a much easier place to play around compared to if we got that really hard eastern shift that Turkey could set up on.
She created. Just looking over the top, they know for a fact there are players up above, but it's always like it's not just it's I'm gonna run around and try and see if I can get a kill. You know that every single time you peek into anything, you're gonna be in so much trouble.
And I think this circle now, I think it's gonna be a bit of a slow one for now. Because both teams have enough room to move around, to set up for the later fight. And I think next circle we're really gonna see that explosion. Where let's say the circle then centers up and Turkey has to be the aggressor. I think the next circle is going to be that explosion of action. Yeah,
you'd have to expect. So looking at where they're positioned right now, I mean, Russia does have the majority of circle control, but I don't know. It's just, I mean, you can never really count out Turkey, but at the same time, I can't really ever count out Russia. It's really, really tricky, to be fair. I'm loving that we're seeing this because we kind of called this the grand final we didn't expect to get to see, and now here it is, Russia versus Turkey. It's going to be a hell of a close one, I would think. Maybe not in terms of the overall score. It could still be a 4-0 either way, but I think the matches individually are going to be really close.
Yeah, I think this sort of area here, this trench, is going to be really important, I think, for the late game here. Having control of that area of the map for Russia here, because I can't remember when it was. I think it was the end of Season 2 Nations Royale. We had a fight here in the Americas where the control of that trench was influential to the outcome of the match. So I'm kind of excited to see if Russia can hold on to this or whether Turkey can be the aggressor and take it off them.
Well, let's see. Turkey, where are you going? Full speed forward, that's for sure. They wanted to make sure they've wrapped around shooting range so that they won't be fighting too much uphill. You can see they're all trying to make their way over here. Is it going to be a shooting range slash, I guess I should say, plane crash fight to the finish? You can see all the Russian players are starting to maneuver, and that's what we haven't really seen from other teams in these situations where Turkey kind of commit to going into one spot. The other teams have been slow at reacting. Here you see Russia try to react immediately.
Yeah, now I think this is where the explosion of actions are going to come. This is where the big fight is, and I want to see those southern groups of Russia come up and try to support it. Because if they're leaving 6-7 players down on the south and Turkey fully commits to this one fight, there's an opportunity here for Turkey maybe to overwhelm the Russian defensive line. But I really like this little scouting by Set. It's risky for sure, but it gives so much information about where Turkey is set up, which you can then relate to the rest of the team. And I think now he sort of recognized that's not how you fly a glider.
Oh, that's a feels bad Set.
Oh, they're coming up from the south now.
Yeah, trying to make their way in. It's it's needed that they make their way up, trying to hold off here. It's just a matter of how wide do you manage to make your defensive front line, like how because you don't want to allow for the Turkish team to try to wrap around.
Yeah, right now there's a big hole in the Russian line on the eastern edge, which we can't really see here, but there's a big group of Turkish players that are wrapping round and have an opportunity really to come behind, or at least just called enfilading, if you know the word, where you basically on the side of a trench, and once they get control of maybe the hilltop to the east, they can shoot at everyone in this trench and take them out. You see this big group on the east. I think that's the win condition right now for Turkey, and I think Russia, they need to get that group around where Battalion is on the northern side to swing round and come to support that defensive position.
But immediately, I love to see what we're seeing from Pokemon and these, of course, two very, very talented players. They don't just stay and hold the straight line. They back off according to how Turkey is trying to push in to stay alive longer, to be able to feed information still and wait for the cavalry to arrive. It's very nice and really proactive defensive playing coming out of Russia right now.
Yeah, it's a bit of a flexible defense, but still that trench is becoming increasingly exposed as Turkey starts to flood the hilltop. There runs a real big risk here of basically Russia getting split in half, right? As this group backs off, people in the trench get stuck, and then if Turkey can exploit that and can punish the players in that trench, yes, you talk about that group that's backed off, But if they're the only players left alive coming into phase 5, then realistically, Turkey's in the ascendancy.
Let's see now. They're trying to hold off. That's the third time I think I see a Turkish player run a teammate over. That's unfortunate. Waits does go down. The nade is going to get the better of him. Numbers now starting to go in favor of of Turkey, I should say, but it's still close. And I feel like now, as you can see, there are 5, 6, maybe 7 players from Russia caught up on the hill. They need to get the hell out of there, because this is what you can't have happening, where Turkey gets to fight, like split it into 2 individual fights. They need to get the hell down from the plane crash area and kind of go back to their teammates.
Yeah, to an extent, it's a bit too late now. It's all about, I think these players just need to try and have an impact and to try and lessen the man advantage that Russia gains from this, because, or sorry, the Turkey gains from this, because now 5 men in advantage. Yes, Russia has the better position on that hilltop, but if Turkey starts to really push that man advantage, let's say they get to 8, maybe even 10, before that big gunfight happens in the middle of the circle, then there's an opportunity there where, even though Russia's in a better position, the overwhelming gunfire from Turkey will just overwhelm that and override the game in Turkey's favor.
Numbers still in favor of Turkey. They don't have the circle advantage, though. And I mean, I would say that even though they're down by 6 players, I don't see any more knocked players on the side of Russia right now. So I would assume it's going to be 6 at least for a little while longer. Because of the open field in the middle, should it be Russia's, should it be Turkey who's going to be forced to push southwest, which it very well could be? There's so much good firepower on the side of Russia that they can, if not even out the numbers, then at least get 4 or 5 kills before Turkey finds the first.
Yeah, and I think with the 6-man advantage, it's definitely doable for Russia to bring that back. It's not a unassailable position. If they had lost maybe 4 or 5 more players, it gets to the point where Turkey just has too much. But right now, yeah, as you said, Turkey's in a bit of a rough position on this hilltop. They don't have much cover. As soon as they need to run down the hill, Russia just light them up. And we see now the kill feed starting to swing back in the favor of Russia. The circle's all right for Turkey. I think if they can get down just sort of south of Krizi, there's sort of those bowls that you can play around that are protected from the hill. But the difficult part is getting there.
Yeah, there are just so many angles. I mean, all you have for cover is trees and whatever vehicles you have with you, right? There are so damn many angles for Russia to play this from. I mean, whenever this next circle is starting to close in, you can see already now Priol and enemy pushing far on the eastern side. There is not a tree you can sit behind where some Russian player won't be able to see you.
Now, Russia has to make sure they're not losing players, though, because we see the kill feed is still... every now and then a Turkish player just gets a knock because he a little bit of a sneak attack on Platter. But every now and then a Turkish player gets knocked. Yes, they're not getting flushed for now. But if more and more players start to get knocked, it opens up a window of opportunity. He actually hit that shot, gee. But it opens up a window of opportunity where Turkey could crash whilst, let's say, 4 or 5 Russians are getting res. But so far, that kill feed is looking very good for Russia.
Yeah, it's continuing to work out in their favor. Want to see more of a full-on send it from Turkey, and it's just not possible running down this hill. You're taking so many casualties. There comes a vehicle trying to crash on through. Where do you go, though? Quiz is trying to hold off on the side. He will have heard this. They need to get out of the car, though, before they all blow up. And look at this. They found their way down, and they are starting to get damage done.
Yeah, but it's 3v8 there right now. They need to do something special here. They've got a couple knocks so far. She created getting a kill and a flush, but there's no support from the rest of the team. So the longer that the Russians can just stay alive here and just shut this player down, as long as there's no reinforcements from Turkey, which actually looks like starting to come in, Russia should just be able to win this out.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're evening things out. It was a deficit for Russia to quite some extent. They were down by 6. Now it's almost even out, but Turkey has made their way to the front, and it's forced Russia back down on the side. And I think that's really all they needed to do. Have that car plummet down and maybe get something going. Will it be too little too late, though? I'm not quite sure.
And I think Russia's just in such a strong position now where really Turkey needs to wipe out this little northern group before the rest can join in. And so far it's still pretty 50-50, but now finally Turkey's striking. A lot of Russian players getting taken down, but they are getting the trades for now, which is keeping that.
So many knock players.
Yeah.
So many knock players. This leaderboard it could be 5 versus 6 right now. I wouldn't know. I mean, there are so damn many knock players on both sides of the leaderboard. Now we are seeing some of these Russian players getting kills, and that's what happens when you start bundling up. The damage is coming in. It's 11 versus 10. We said it was going to be close, and this is going to go right down to the wire.
Yeah, kills like this are massive for Turkey because they're shutting down those people that were sort of hitting pinpricks on their back. You know, they shut down the little flanking groups, and now it's just a straight up fight in the middle, 10v10, and Iro goes down, the big player on the team. He really is one of the win conditions. So if he gets flushed out, there's an opportunity maybe for Russia to win this. But so far, the kill feed's looking very good for Turkey.
This is insane. It is so close right now. I'm seeing 4 knock players just up on the top of that hill for Russia. There are players down on the Turkish side too, but I've seen that many. Oh, but as I say that, Goose with a nice triple spray. The molly is in there as well. Kissing finds a double too. This is going to be so damn close. There's 3 knock players here from Turkey. I think we're looking at something along the lines of 3 versus 6 now. There are knock players on both sides. You see Goose is down as well. It's just up on the northern side, and Voldemort up there to 2 versus 6. Make that 1 versus 6. Is it going to be Turkey losing their first map in, we don't have the exact numbers, but something along the lines of the last 40 maps? They haven't lost a single one. You need to do magic now, Voldemort, if you want to win this, and he's found 2.
This will be something special, a 1v7. It's very rare we even see a 1v4, but I think, finally, Battling gets up the hill, strikes onto Voldemort, and Russia shut down the giant.
Ow. For the first time in what seems like forever, Turkey loses a map. And to be fair, it had Russia written all over it. And despite that, Turkey almost won it.
Yeah, it was a hella close game. It was as soon as Turkey got down the hill, I was a little bit scared for Russia. You know, they got onto the sort of the little hill, the ridge. And once they got enough players there, I was getting a bit worried for Russia. But then you had Goose that stepped in from behind, got that triple spray down that really just completely eviscerated the offensive line for Turkey. That play, I think, was really the turning point of the game. And by taking down those 3 players, it wasn't just any random players as well. I think it was Iro and 2 other competitive players on the Turkish team. So shutting down the main firepower really turned the game into Russia's favor. And finally, Turkey lose a map. And we're actually not going to have a 4-0. Well, actually, I'll say that. We might.
Well, it could be a 4-0.
We could have a Russian 4-0.
You never know. You never know. Maybe there's one loss. Like, they were considering themselves completely and utterly immortal. And now with that one loss, it has shattered their hopes and dreams. And now they're just going to forfeit the rest. No, I don't think that's going to happen. But interesting one. Interesting one for sure. Again, got to give credit to Turkey for how well they were maneuvering around in a continuous of shifts that kept going in favor of Russia.
Yeah, they got that fight at the hilltop where they split off a little group of the Russian team. They got, I think it was a 6-man advantage at one point. But yeah, the big problem was that it was so hard to get down that hilltop, and that man advantage just disappeared when they were trying to run down, because they lost so many players trying to run down the hilltop. So a really nice first game from Russia.
Well, there you have it. That's going to be a Russian 1-0. Probably wasn't expected, but then again, who knows? We knew it was going to be a close one, and for sure now it's going to be. Russia takes the first one. We're going to take a short break, guys. I'll be back with Sanok in just a moment. It has now been proven Turkey is indeed not an immortal nation when it comes to Nations Royale. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Toby, joined by Saint, and we have just witnessed an appearance of a unicorn, being Turkey losing a map.
Yeah, it turns out pigs can fly. As Turkey somehow, I don't know how. Well, I do know how it went down, but I was not expecting that. I think coming into Erangel specifically, I was expecting Turkey to have dominance on Erangel and Miramar, and then maybe Sanok and Vikendi be the question marks that Russia could maybe slip off and get a few maps there and then win a wonder map somewhere. So now coming into Sanok, is this an opportunity for Turkey to go 2-0 down, for Russia to go 2 up? I think it might be.
There is a way. There is a way, and I think it's... For what we saw there, sure, circles were going in the favor of Russia, but I also feel like it was a game that any other team would still have lost to Turkey.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we saw Turkey almost actually managed to win it out. When they pushed down the hill, we got something to, I think, 6v2 at the end, wasn't it? Or 7v2 at the end, and which they finally won it out. So yeah, I think if it was Finland, Hungary, someone like that. I almost feel like maybe Turkey would have just run away with it once they got that 6-kill advantage on the hilltop. So I'm really happy to see a team sort of rain on Turkey's parade, show that they're not infallible.
Now, how does that impact the Turkish team, though?
I don't think they care. I don't think they care.
No, probably not.
I think they come and they're still thinking they're the favorite, still thinking, I think in the back of your head, you're thinking maybe the circle wasn't very favorable for us. It was really difficult to run down that hill. And
they just wanted more screen time.
They never get a lot of screen time when they play these tournaments.
They win too quickly. Yeah,
exactly.
So yeah, I'm sort of expecting this game. I still would put Turkey as favourites over the whole series, but I think that this map now in particular is going to really set the tone. And I think a really good start for Turkey would be if they can shut down that little group in Paradise or what.
Wow.
Does Turkey just set up on the bridges here and just stop Russia from crossing at all?
Nah, they'll just cross north over.
Yeah, but if they can set up along the sort of the west coast of the main island, all the way to Pai Nan.
If that's the case, then you got to coordinate that absurdly fast.
Yeah,
and that's the issue.
If there's one team that could do that sort of thing.
Yeah, but that would also kind of go against the way that Turkey likes to play, which is together and pushing together. No, I think they're just going to move into the circle on the east side of Kori somewhere and just wait for them there. I mean, there's only so many places Russia can push in from. So if you have Turkey and you go sit on the hillside to the east of Kori, like literally right where you see the black line go down from the letter D, then like sit on the compound there in the center east of Kori and the compound surrounding it. Russia has to come to you at some point, and if you can cram all the Russian players on the west side of Kori, and then wait for that circle to eventually go east of Kori or into Kori, then you should be golden if you're Turkey, I think.
Yeah, no, I think Sanok, it tends to play out in one of two ways, where either you have that ridiculous early gunfight, or you have one team set up in the power positions and use that, manipulate the compounds, and force one team into an unfavorable fight. So yeah, I expect, especially from what we saw when we were on the minimap, you see all the Turkish players are facing towards the circle, which suggests to me that they are doing exactly what you said, but they're going to back off. But if Turkey can pick off these stragglers, if they can find out all these players that are alone and with no real support and extend maybe a 3-4 man advantage, this is the map where such a man advantage is so important.
Well, Russian players making their way north around. There were a few Russian players who were kind of isolated. Now I see one more kill coming in. Voldemort finds Surike. It's not squeaky, but it's kind of squeaky. But you see, there are a few Russian players who are like actually pushing into the circle before the Turkish roster is, and you can see Polodero again. I think it's Apocalypse. Yep, it's them two trying to hold off here. Enemy is smart and just waiting. I mean, he's by himself. There's no reason for him to push anything here.
Yeah, but it's very risky for these, this little group of Russian players. I mean, yes, he might be able to strike here and get it knocked, but if he just gets traded like that, there's no one to support him, and suddenly it's a 2-man advantage for Turkey because the res will come in. So if all these individual players from Russia that you say are in the circle, if they get shut down by Turkey before the rest of Russia can come join in, we might get to a point where Turkey has such a big man advantage that it doesn't matter.
And then 10,000 Days shoots him. So, I can hit my targets too.
It's better than what we've seen from countries like Hungary, where they were actually knocking each other. At least with only one tag,
Yeah, that was a yikes to some extent.
This, I kind of feel like this southern group here, the longer they take to get to the circle and to support the rest of their team, the riskier it becomes for the that group on the north. If they can't group up, if they get split off by Turkey for the whole game, then it becomes so hard for them to coordinate towards that big gunfight. When we get that 20 versus 20, if Russia split it in two, it turns into a 20 versus 16 somewhere, and Turkey should be able to win it out.
Well, let's see now. Turkey are starting to plummet their way in. So are the Russian team, and a lot of them are coming in from the south, trying to maneuver their way around down there. They found, I got to say, they found a surprisingly high amount of vehicles, given that we're playing Sanok.
Yeah, and that's, I want to say lucky maybe for Russia, because they had so many people on that northwestern island. There was a risk where, some players get stuck there with no car and they get even more split up than they already are. But yeah, it kind of feels like they found enough, at least, to get into the circle, to get on this southern side. But I know for a fact that it's very hard to rotate from the south towards the north. There's a lot of really open areas. I played a ranked game the other day. I was doing this exact rotation. Yeah, I was in squads, but I got I was in midair, about 100 meters in the air, doing a jump, and T-Bone just one tapped me off the top of it. When I was yeah, it was rough. And I'd made like a minute and a half rotation all the way around the south just to get one tapped off my vehicle. But yeah, in Nations Royale, I think you could be less scared of that sort of thing happening because you sort of know that the other team is going to be in one place. You know, especially when it's Turkey, they really like to group up as a blob, as a death stack, as we like to call it.
Yeah.
So you can be a little bit less scared on those kind of rotations than you were if you're in the same lobby as a Mackin.
Well, let's see now. Everyone's made their way down towards the east, and what I thought was going to be Russia getting kind of stuck on the quarry side of things, they've actually made their way like all the way over towards the east side instead, and are now playing with the kind of the beach towards the back, and that could work the same way, maybe even worse than sitting behind quarry, because they can't really go in the water. I mean, there's nowhere else for them to go. So I feel like it's up to Turkey to really decide like where this fight takes place, because if they're going to push on them now, then well, obviously Russia has to make a stand.
Yeah, and you can see from the mini map in the bottom right that Turkey look like they want to push this compound. They're sending a lot of players towards it, and realistically, this group of maybe 6 or 7 Russian players in a really rough spot to try and shut this down. This nade, I think, get rid of Rip here is going to be really important to their overall fight. And yeah, that nade's not going to go through the door. Round 2, anyone? Ooh, Kasich almost killed his teammate, and actually he gets taken down from the other side of the road by Cone Marco. You know, these stragglers starting to get shut down now. There's an opportunity here for Turkey to open up a 10-man advantage before the rest of Russia comes from the south and joins in. It's really looking shaky right now for the Russian team.
What are you going to do here, Rip? Just looking around. Knows that opponents are somewhat in the nearby vicinity, but don't want to go full-on over-aggressive on it. Set. Tags up a few, and it's, I mean, yes, the damage here is good, as we say. I mean, it's good to destroy helmets and vests for fights to come, but for me, it's mainly the info. If he spots like 5 or 6 people on that hill, that could be crucial info to give across to your fellow teammates.
Yeah, but you get to the point where there's only so much impact info can have. You know, if gunfights are going down and you're still just that player on the hill, not having an actual impact on the game and just relaying where the stragglers are, if you're not having an impact on these compound fights that are going down right now, then there's a risk where you become sort of a has-been, a bit of a. You might as well be a tree, if you're up on that hill, not hoping out in the fights. This way here, great example of what they're doing. Yeah,
they need to make a play here, and I think that's again where I guess Ukraine is a good example of giving up space when they never had to. Take a stand. Say, you know what? No, we'll fight them here. We're not going to get a better spot to fight them than what we have right now. And that's, I feel like, what Turkey has done. I mean, they could just have sat around waiting for the couple of more circles to go. But they say, no, let's take the fight now. And I think that's a smart decision.
And it's kind of about reading the room as well for Turkey. They know the reinforcements are coming in. So, even if you've got a smaller group set up in a fortified position, that's maybe a 60-40 for you. But if the other group comes in and hits you from behind, suddenly it becomes a 60-40 for the other team. So you kind of have to go for that aggression. You have to take the fight against the compound. And the fact that they had that overwhelming force allowed them to open up this 10-man advantage because they could overwhelm the little fortified compound. And all of a sudden it becomes in a position where realistically I don't think Russia has a way to win this.
No, I mean, a 5-player deficit, 6-player deficit, we saw them turn that around last game, but 10 players at this point, and they don't have the circle. I don't see it happening. The only way that it could potentially happen is that there is, I want to say, 7 or 8 players from Turkey up on the northern side who are somewhat isolated, but they have a massive influence up there, given that they're kind of what's holding off the east side of the Russian team.
Yeah, there's an opportunity with an eastern shift where Turkey gets stuck down in the valley, and Russia gets to shut them down. But if you get to the point where, let's say it's 25v15, 25v10, it doesn't matter how many players Russia has on the hill because Turkey will overwhelm them. I think this northern group we see coming in towards the Lakawi area might have a big impact on this game because maybe they can wrap around, on the eastern coast. If they can get a little bit behind the hilltop, there's an opportunity where they can pincer that and really shut down what little defense Russia has left.
Well, it's right now it's Turkey playing compounds and Russia running around in the open, and for how much longer I'm not sure. We are almost at a 2-for-1 in terms of numbers. I feel like Russia won't be able to win this, but then again, I mean, I said it before as well. It is Russia. They have some damn good shooters in between them, and if they can position right and maybe get a good shift now, then I want to say there's still a way. Let's see, Circle allows for the Russian players to be in, but the vast majority of it is in favor of Turkey.
Yeah, you can wrap around the south if you're Russia. You know, you can use the Kampong Hill to get around in the circle. But then when you cross that road, I think that's going to be a really tough point for Russia. You know, trying to get across with Turkey controlling the northwestern side of this map already, it becomes really difficult for Russia to get anywhere beyond where Pokemon is. So I kind of feel like now Russia needs to try and identify a fight where they can at least temporarily have a man advantage whilst the rest of the reinforcements come in. And if they can overwhelm that position before the rest of Turkey is able to join in, you know, if they can limit it to something like a 17v17 whilst the other 12, you know, turn up from behind, you know, maybe there's a timing they can get, which helps out. But if you're making individual plays like this with Pashkes pushing the compound alone, you're just going to feed a bigger and bigger man advantage in Turkey's favor.
Yeah, that ain't gonna work, and that's normally not the way we see Russia play either. It's like they tend to be really smart about not having players go out and do kind of their own thing. So I think this kind of tells the story of how somewhat desperate of a situation they're in.
Yeah, you have that little group of Pokemon, Goose, and Zorf coming around the side, but Kalantor's shut down Goose Red. It gets a flush as well, and that just really neuters this group. Two players really can't have an impact on a flank. You know, you need a group of 5 or 6 to do that kind of thing for it to work out. And you just see it right now. There's, I think there's a plan in mind for Russia where they're coming around the west, but it kind of feels like there's no coherence. You know, you see elite player Batin Alia stuck in camp point. You got Flak on the hill doing nothing. It just feels like Russia's almost run out of ideas and trying to make these little desperation players. There's losing another player here or there. And as they get picked off, you know, their man advantage grows. Turkey get more confident, and it becomes less and less likely for Russia to win this game.
Yeah, it's straight on 2-for-1 now in terms of the numbers. And I mean, Russia, they've been moving around in the center, and now they're starting to sweep the northeast side as well. You can see there's a full squad going on there. And it will be a, 9 versus Flag, then 9 versus 2 and Alia and a teammate. Then it's going to be a 9 or 8 versus Quissy and Deep. I don't see a way they turn this around now at this point.
Yeah, the only way they could have for me is if they were grouped up as 14 and they found a timing. But the fact that they've now spread out so much, I think sometimes these players might be able to get 2 players down before they die. But if you're trading,
the flushes won't come in.
Yeah, that's the big problem. Yeah, you really can't get flushes when you're playing solo. And we just see now, you see the co-feed. Solo's getting picked off, 3 go down in a row with no answer from Russia. I mean, yes, you're going to get 1 here, but like instantly gets knocked. No flush comes in. So, I mean, a great performance by Turkey. I think proving the power of teamwork, proving the power of the death stack, and the fact that they split Russia in half. I think by that group that was on the north sort of got stuck for Russia was really the win condition for this for Turkey.
That's
it was an anticlimactic second shot.
First one was good, second one not so much, and therefore didn't get the flush either. He's going to be taken down. DS falls as well, and I think this is going to be GG, at least in terms of this one. So despite the fact that Turkey proved to be mortal after all, not gods, merely demigods, they will be able to respond swiftly with a win in return. It's I think it's good for them, and I think it's good for Russia, to be fair, as well.
And it also means that it also means the series extends, beyond the question mark map of Sanok. This is the last time we'll see this map now, so maybe there's an opportunity for, if Russia's actually better on the bigger maps, despite the fact that we've seen Turkey win this, maybe Russia's still pretty confident because this is the last time we see it. But I kind of feel like maybe Erangel was a bit of a red herring in terms of the fact that because of the circles were very favorable for Russia. That was really why they won it, more so than a strategic sort of ability. So maybe this is a sign of things to come for Turkey. A 27-0 victory is ridiculous. It's one of the stronger games we've seen.
They just lost the game. I mean, I don't want to say. I mean, yes, the first circle was favoring the Turkish team,
But I feel like Russia rotated pretty well into it. Second one was pretty even. Yes, you're forcing the Russian players into the open with minimal hard cover, but it was still playable. So it was last game merely Russia getting circles and therefore winning, or is there a way now where another even game in terms of circle can still go Russia's way?
I think it's a little bit of, game one was a mixture of Russia in the favorable position, and also the teams are fairly equal, because I think we've seen. I mean, this game, yes, Turkey won 27-0, but it was really because Russia were never able to get into that gunfight. Right, it was always 5v20s that we kept seeing happen. We saw that compound on the north that got shut down. We saw stuff like this where there's just a couple players left. There was never really that opportunity for the big gunfight to happen. And I think when that happens, when we get the 20 versus 20s that we're so used to seeing, it becomes a much more even playing field between these two teams.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was a good one, and we're going to get things all tied up. As you can see, just below our pretty faces is the veto and how the map order will be for today's best of 7 grand finals here. Miramar is going to be up next, then we're headed on over to Vikendi. But before all of that happens, we're going to take a short break, guys. So do us a favor, stick around, because we'll be back in just a moment. Things have gotten all tied up as we head on over to Miramar now. Saying, looking back at the last 2 maps, they were, I want to say, somewhat even in playing and in how we were forcing everyone out into the open to some extent. But this one much more convincing from Turkey's side than the last.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's necessarily a sign of things to come. I think maybe it will be, but I still feel like the rest of the series is going to be a lot closer. I don't think 27-0 quite told the story of the game in the fact that Russia, there were actually quite a lot of knocks, but because they were always so split up into those groups of 3, 4, the really small groups here, they got those knocks and they just weren't able to flush. So realistically, it was a little bit closer than 27-0 really shows. And I think across at least Miramar, Vikendi, and Erangel, which we're definitely going to see, I think we should have much closer games.
And I feel like that's part of the reason as to what makes it so difficult of... When you don't have the circle early, you try to rotate in. If that fight happens before you have all your players already inside the circle, then you're forced to take those. Okay, we're 4 guys, let's hold off. Okay, now 1 more guy is coming to join. Now 2 more guys are coming to help, but you're constantly getting knocked over and over again. Therefore, you can never, you can survive to some extent, but you can never really get the fight going your way. And I feel like that's what Turkey in this situation was really good at kind of abusing and executing on.
Yeah, and I think credit to Turkey for the fact that they recognized that it was just 8-9 players up on the north side, and the fact that they were able to isolate them and shut them down and open up such a big man advantage, which you've seen be so influential on Sanok in particular. I think is a real credit to Turkey and their sort of awareness of how they should be playing in this game mode.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we do have at least 3 more games coming. As for those you guys who don't know, it's a best of 7. So that means in common speak that the first team to get 4 wins. Whether that's going to be all the way to map number 7 being Vikendi again, or whether it's going to be happening a few games from now, we don't know yet, obviously. But we are going to head on over to Miramar to find out who's at least going to take the lead for now.
Yeah, we were saying before we started that if one team takes the first 2 maps, then they're probably just going to run away with the series. But the fact that we now have a 1-1 means that I think now this map becomes quite influential in sort of setting the scene, right? In showing us what we can expect for the rest of them. Because Miramar plays very similar to Erangel in the way that high ground and your positioning in phase 3 and 4 is really important for that big gunfight that then happens later on. So I'm kind of expecting now that A, this is going to be a really close game, and B, the winner of this, I think, is going to be in a real driving seat for the rest of the series.
You could expect so, that's for sure. Let's see. A lot of the Russian players jumping out towards the west side. It's not too different from what we've seen before. It was a fairly western plain too. Is it going to be an island? Oh my god, an island ending in this game mode? Please, game, please give it to us.
And then there's that one question mark now of Monte Nuevo, where both teams have a bit of presence. I think if one team can shut down the other group without really losing players, opening up that initial man advantage puts you in a really strong position for the late game.
Yeah, it's where we're going to be having our eyes early on. And I can't really tell, to be fair, how many how many Turkish players are there, because there are a lot of Turkish players elsewhere on the map. And as you can see, now BSD, does manage to find the first one, but he needs help coming in. Rupture is there immediately.
Yeah, that's 3-0 so far in terms of knocks. Turkey shutting down the initial players. And they also have control of that silo player. They've only got one player there, but the high ground there you can use to your advantage really well to shut down these players. And now that kill feed starting to swing back in the favor of Russia. They've got a couple players down, so they're preventing the man advantage from extending in favor of Turkey. But realistically, I think you have to put Turkey in favors because it does look like they have more players in this area and they have that high ground position.
Yeah, that, and then also it's going to be a while before any players can come to help, right? I mean, you have all the Turkish players, all the Russian players are up in El Pozo. Turkish players are, for the most part at least, further out to towards the east and not really in a position to help at all.
Yeah, at least it looks like Duzi and Kisik might be able to get the better of Marsic. But I mean, now you look, most of the southern side's been cleared apart from Hello Senpai. So there's an opportunity here now where they could just sort of, clean Monty out of the Russian invaders, make sure it's a Turkish city, and really, if they can get these 4 kills untraded, put it 28-24, they're in a really good position, I think, to move on in this game, Turkey.
Yeah, some good players they'd be taking down as well at Duzi and Co. That's a skilled bunch to get rid of, and you would want to get rid of them early on, especially if possible. But I gotta give credit to Russia. I mean, how they're playing this. You can see how well they're moving around together. This ain't their first rodeo. They're maneuvering around and playing really, really smart.
Yeah, and slowly but surely, we're starting to see the reinforcements feed in. And I mean, there's a threat where you could just be feeding more kills in Turkey's favor. But if you can get a big enough presence here for Russia and now, and put it back in your favor, then you can be the one coming out of this with a man advantage. You can be the one coming in favorites to the later circle. It kind of feels like we're going to see a bit of an early fight here as Turkey's also pulling up with the reinforcements.
Where are they going to go? More people are joining the fun. And who knows? Maybe the game is just going to end in Montenegro. I would be surprised to see that.
With what we've seen, I would be surprised.
We've had weirder things before.
Yeah, and it's just about whether one team cuts their losses. You get to the point where you send players in because you don't want the others to die in vain, but you keep feeding them in. You keep sending more and more players, and eventually it turns into a modern day Asonzo for my history geeks out there, where you just get. It's a World War I battle where I think 15 battles happened in the same place because Italy kept attacking a river, and they lost something like 900,000 people at this one river against Austria because they lost like 3 players. Well, I mean, if you put it in context of this, you lose 3 and then you send reinforcements to get revenge, and then you lose that as well. And you keep sending groups and groups in to try and get it. So I think at one point we're going to see a team cut their losses and back off.
You don't have to,
or at least. If you are the team that starts to lose, I think you need to do that. Otherwise, it's going to be very rough if you can. If you lose a lot of players here,
it's going to be. I don't want to say beyond winnable, going down a couple of players early, but it's going to be tricky. That's for sure. Leah does find one, so Carl falls. That's gonna make it that much more doable, I would say, from the from a perspective of the Russian players trying to maybe get out of the city alive. And you can see more and more Russian players are actually starting to get into the city.
And I think maybe this is the opportunity for Turkey to just back off because they're starting to lose those players. They're starting to get shut down. But realistically, how do you get away from this? Now, I think at this point, they're sort of stuck now. Maybe BSD and Schofield can back off at least. But Rupture is kind of committed. If he can get 2 kills, maybe, at least trade 2 for 1, limit the strength of that man advantage, and maybe that's all he can do now. But realistically, Russia's starting to open up that advantage, starting to put themselves in a good position, and I think starting to make themselves the favorite for this game.
What do you think? I mean, if you're on the Turkish side of things, you're just gonna get the hell out of there. There's not really anything to fight for. There's no reason to stick around. You can see every time they get a kill, they get traded off pretty much immediately in return. So if you can, Schofield, and just see if you can skip town and maybe get picked up by a teammate somewhere.
Yeah, no, that 3-man advantage now for Russia is looking kind of spicy. But there is that one caveat where Turkey have really set up on the south side of Monty on the hilltops, and there's a bit of a risk here where the Russians, as they try to leave, might get shut down. You know, if the vehicles get blown up as they're driving out, if they don't necessarily have cars, then they need to run away instead. There's a bit of a risk here where they could start to lose players.
Yeah, we'll see new circles popping. Just a couple of more seconds to go. I like the fact we have the clock up above as well. I think it's pretty nice. The bow watches. Oh my lord, that is.
No one cares about that circle.
I was gonna say this is where the fight happens in Montenegro because everyone's like, "Yep, that ain't happening. That ain't happening." And look at how many Russian players actually up towards St. Martin and kind of caught off. If Turkey opts to not take the fight to Monte, which would make sense, they are going to be in a golden position down towards the south.
Yeah, I really want to see Turkey just stay to the north here, stay trap this team in Monty, because it feels like they're backing off now, but there's such an opportunity there where they can just completely swing this game. A 4-man disadvantage, yes. I mean, we saw, 6, I think, for Turkey in game 1 that was turned around by Russia's position in the circle. But there's not really a power position in this zone where, by being in that position, the other team is at such a massive disadvantage, as we saw on that Erangel game. Yeah. So I'm a little bit nervous for this. You know, the decision to leave and to allow Russia out of Monty might come to bite them in the arse.
Well, I guess we'll find out soon enough. Will it be ass biting or will it be a will it be them making up for it and potentially getting off in a good situation? Schofield is by himself. He has done some damage, managed to find one knock, can't get the flush yet. You see Set already go down to blue, and that's what I was talking about. Good. A lot of these CS players were far off, and he does get the flush, or at least finding one. That's gonna mean something.
Yeah, if he can get one more here, he's done his job really. A 2-for-1 trade is really good as an individual player. So there is a risk now where because there's no more cars, he's basically just going to die to the blue and not have an impact, which I think Russia's recognised. You know, their meds are low, so they're just leaving him, letting him die. If you can pop someone out of the car, maybe I think he's had an impact. But realistically, like, how does he now get to the circle? I mean, there's no cars.
He runs. Oh, that's him dead.
Oh, he hasn't got enough time to heal, I don't think.
Unfortunate. Did he get a bandage off? He might actually have. I think he got one tick.
Oh, he did, yeah. He got the
off his booster, and that's going to be what keeps him alive.
But I mean, realistically, with phase 3 starting now, it's going to take a lot of damage. He's got no first aids left. I think it's his game over at this point, unless there's a car that they've left.
Yeah, and I wouldn't expect there to be any vehicles left over in that area of the map. So that's feels bad, man. But nonetheless, how it's going to be.
Now we've got a bit of an east-west split. But with Turkey taking control of the high ground on the east, Russia taking control of that Valdemar area, and then we have a bit of a stalemate here, at least for 30-40 seconds. And then later on, maybe if we get a big eastern shift, there's an opportunity here for the Turkish team to have a good position. But if that circle now comes back towards the west, come back towards that northern hill, it's pretty much a 50-50.
Yeah, it'll go either way. Let's look at it here. Russia. I mean, it really is a pretty even split, at least in terms of like map as a whole. But wow,
he actually gets the kill.
He finds him.
Oh, Schofields not had a great exit from this city. He gets shot down. He did get the kill at least, so he's had some impact.
Yeah,
now he's leaving a trail. A bit of a Hansel and Gretel man. He just gets obliterated by Zorf. There he goes. Now 3-man advantage for Russia. It's not all she wrote. 3's definitely something you can come back from. I mean, we saw, as I said earlier, we saw 6 on our angle.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a nice thing to have if you're Russia.
Yeah, for sure. It's not a bad situation for them to be in. There is a way for them to go out and get the win off it too.
Yeah, but this is risky from Russia to go for that crate. I mean, yes, you get a lot of level 3 armor, you get good guns from it, but if you lose players for this, it's really not worth.
I don't know, man. I think. Can we say that the game depends on this shift? No, we can't, because there's still something for Russia to play.
Yeah, but realistically now, Turkey has a lot of control. And yeah, Russia has that hill in the northwest, and they have a bit of a trench on the southwest, which are decent enough positions. But realistically, you're expecting this circle to come somewhere closer to the Turkish area, right? That you'd think if it comes anywhere north, I think of this ridge, it becomes so difficult for Turkey to do anything. No, sorry, for Russia to do anything.
Millman is literally rock climbing, or mountain climbing, I should say.
And I think something we might see here is Russia try and swing on the southern side, maybe hit this area around. Melman's already trying to sneak up. If they can send a big enough group here to take off the southern edge, if they can get up on these ridges here, there becomes a moment where all those Turkish players now down in the valley could get shut down.
Let's see. Mert's trying to look from above, and they need to hold them off. I mean, I feel like they can't allow for them to get a proper footing on the east side hill.
Yeah, I think they've recognized this sort of push is coming in. They're starting to move over those reinforcements. But there's a lot of Turkish players right now on the northern and eastern edges of the circle in those compounds that are really not going to have an impact if this fight breaks out.
How are things going to go from now? Melman spots one. They're all literally mountain climbing at the same time.
There's an opportunity of some nades to have a really big impact on this. If they can land them in that group and get a couple knocks, so close.
Wow.
If that nade had knocked 3 players, there's an opportunity for Turkey to just swing the game in their favor. I mean, for now, Michele's got that knock, got the flush into Drainus, so, that's a start. And I think those northern players in Turkey can have an impact on this fight as it breaks out. As we see, they're starting to rip players from the server. But if Russia can get up that hill and get out of the range of the players on the north, it's going to be very difficult for that southern group to hold off. I'm surprised Russia's really not been more aggressive. I think they had to push that. It kind of feels like they're reverting to that strategy of only taking a fight when you need to.
Yeah.
I mean, they put a bit of pressure in, and then as the first sign of resistance from Turkey, they sort of backed off.
And I get the idea. It just seems like you can't do that against Turkey. Like, that's one of those strategies that works against some teams, but against a team like Turkey, you just can't do that.
And now I think there's enough Turkish players on this ridge here. They've got so much presence on the top of this hill now because there was a bit of hesitation from the Russian team. I think now all of a sudden Turkey's in a really strong position. But that circle does really even the odds.
It seems so. It's going to force the Turkish down, and maybe that's what they were hoping for. The Russian team, that the circle gods would bless them with anything but an east side shift. And I guess the tides have kind of turned. The numbers are pretty even, and if you're in the shoes of Turkey right now, I mean, they have to push down that hill.
Yeah, I mean, the observers showed us that little ridge earlier on where, I said that if the circle goes anywhere further east than that, it becomes very difficult for Russia. But for now, it's not done that. For now, Russia has the ascendancy with the hilltop here because they have so much presence over the rest of the circle from here. And it goes sort of from what we saw last, in the phase before where Russia needed to make that push up the hill. Suddenly it flips where Turkey has to push up a hilltop.
They're holding off. They're holding off for now, at least. Diaz up above, you can see he's being targeted by many teams. That's again where you go, oh, but why don't they just shoot them? It shouldn't be that hard. Well, if you have enough players looking your way, like every time you do this and peek one guy deep, and then you get tagged, like shot at by 7 different players. Oh, deep. That's a clutch info gathering there.
Playing a bit of whack-a-mole right now with the Turks. But I think there's this... The one thing Turkey needs to do right now is extend that man advantage to... If they can get to, let's say, like 4, 5, maybe 6, and make it to the point where they can get 2v1 fights a lot of the time, it doesn't really matter that Russia has the better positions, because you see now they're starting to flood this hill, and there's not really a good Russian defense. The Turks are starting to break through the line, break through the defensive position of Russia, and that kill feed is looking very Turkey right now.
They're just spread all over the place, the Russian team, and that's again where, I mean, if Russia has a chance to engage in anything with 6 or 7 people pushing forward, there's really nothing you can do, no matter how good you are as a team, to try and hold off against it. And right now, it seems like that's the case. You can see 3 running up together here. There's going to be more pushing up from behind them. And, well, the numbers advantage is still there. So have 5 players up at least. And so it's what we can see. I don't see any knock players anywhere, but Pokemon is up on the top alongside Deep. I mean, there's some really, really heavy-hitting defensive players up here waiting for them.
Yeah, they need to shut down these flanks before they can have a bigger impact. They're starting to get the tags in, but they've only got the one knock on Honor right now, and they're taking a lot of damage in return. There's a bit of a risk here where maybe if this group goes down, it might be all over for Russia in this map at least. And the fact that people like Mert are stepping in from long range, getting those knocks, is really limiting what the Russian team can do.
Deep's trying to make a move. Might as well. They need to hold them off, and now with the circle pushing down the hillside, that's going to make things even more difficult. Because now they have to get down the hill, and oh, nice double from Pokemon there.
Yeah, and I think they need to exploit this. They need to go and try and clear out this northern group, because that will then allow them to push into the circle safely. If they can take this fight and do it successfully, get this triple down, yeah, there we go. There's 3 kills. Or actually, maybe not, because Pokemon gets traded and flushed by Pladerick. A lot of kills coming in the favor of Turkey, even though that flank was looking very dangerous. You know, they still got the trades in, which is something that really Russia couldn't afford. And still a 6-man advantage.
They have the numbers. Will they be able to bring it home, though? I'm not sure. Quizzy, you can see Wave below. I mean, that's really the issue right now. They just lost the vast majority of their high ground control, and trying to play this from below now, I feel like that's, if not impossible, there's something close to it.
Yeah, and I think now you need to find some really nice gunfight in the north. But the problem really for Russia is the fact that they're really spread out again. You know, it kind of reminds me of the Sanok game, where once again, they're not in a coherent position. You know, they're not grouped up as 10. Instead, they're in like 3s and 4s. And yes, they can get these individual fights, but instantly the trades come in. You see how low Wades gets. Deep gets taken out. You know, every time Russia gets a kill, they always seem to get traded back by Turkey.
Yeah. Only up by 4 now, though, so the numbers have been evened out a little more. Greg those 4, so make that 5 now. It's still not over. DS does find 1, but they need to find so much more.
And the problem really becomes is they're being forced off this hilltop. And yes, it's not necessarily in the circle, but if Turkey can do enough damage from the hilltop before they need to leave it, then it becomes really an unsustainable game now. A 2-for-1 player count in favor of Turkey. You know, this compound really here, even though it's on the edge of the blue, you know, the blue's starting to force him down the hill. Is he stuck? That's rough. You know, because Mert's stood up on top, he's able to light players up as they run down the hilltop. You ever see there? Another one goes down. So the fact that Turkey kept control of the hill, you know, Russia weren't able to push them back, means that now they're just starting to flood. They're starting to wipe out what's little is left of Russia. And realistically, it's 2-1 in favor of Turkey.
Ooh, no, that's a flag. Okay. Let's see. Sorv battling. The captain is still alive. He's not going to abandon ship before this one is coming to an end. Sorv finds 1. This is 300 and then some. Wait is there as well to help out too, but for how much longer? Batulin, you need to do miracle work here. Last remaining player is the captain from Russia. Is he gonna nade himself? Is he trying? Indeed he is. Denied.
He's stopping.
There you go, Batulin.
The pans are out.
Kill Kalimdor came with the pan, but it's not gonna work out in Russia. Falls 2-1 to Turkey.
Yeah, and you know, before the start of the game, I think we were saying now, this is the one that's going to set the tone for the series. And now Turkey's proven that, you know, maybe map 1 was more so about Russia's advantageous position than about Russia's advantage overall in that kind of game mode. So all of a sudden, Turkey has a win on the gunfight map. Turkey has a win on the rotation map. And they looked really strong doing it in both of them. So now coming into that, you know, the map 5, the map 6. Well, no, map 4, map 5, right? I can do maths. Yes, map 4, map 5. But yeah, Turkey's looking really good. And I think maybe now, starting in their head to think, you know, maybe they can get that 4-1. You know, that's what they should be doing. Maybe Vikendi's a bit of a question mark, which is coming up soon.
Yeah.
Which I think actually is next. But I think if they can win Vikendi, they've got to be so confident coming into that 5th map.
Yeah, you'd have to you'd have to think. So I don't know. I mean, what I saw from Russia so far is that they are able. Like maybe they need a little more of a push in the back to get going, but they are there. This is much closer actually, to be fair, than I coming into today thought it was going to be. It's not out yet,
even though Turkey is still in the lead, it's not over yet. We're heading on over to Vikendi next, but guys, it's going to be a short break before that, so stick around and we'll be back in just a few. We are headed on over to Vikendi in just a short moment, but before that, let's just quickly have a little chat about what happened there in the last one. It kept swinging from one side to another, down through the valley, up over the top on the other side, kind of like those, what do you call, we call them Viking ships, you know, that in the theme park, it's like the Viking ship that keeps rocking from side to side. I feel like that's kind of how Russia kept playing. They're running up one side, running down over on the other side, and then trying to get back up to the first one, and then initially they would fold, but I feel like still, despite that, there were moments where I thought they had a chance.
I mean, like my hair, it kind of feels like they're a little bit all over the place right now. I think at least in game 3, it kind of felt like they got stuck in two minds. Where, you know, we had that group that went on the southeastern side to try to push up. No one really supported them, and they got forced to back off. And then we saw on the northern hill, you know, they had 5 or 6 players up there. They got pushed. They had to back off because no one supported them. It kind of feels like they have the right idea, but because they're not committing players to it, they're starting to lose maps now. And I think now coming into Vikendi, this is, I think, such an important match for Russia to arrest the momentum of Turkey, because they really run the risk of losing this 4-1.
It's true. We'll see now as we head on over to Vikendi. I'll keep saying it. Every single broadcast that we get a game of Vikendi, I'll keep saying it. Give me some people on trains.
Yeah,
I need to see it. It's normally I don't really care too much for these things, but for this game mode in particular, I feel like there's space enough that trains should be utilized.
Yeah, I'm curious if we're going to see another Southern Circle, because if we are, Turkey's going to be loving that. And we've seen time and time again where it comes down towards the Dineland and Pilnek area of the map. I want to see something new. I want to see something different. Let's end in Cosmodrome. Why not?
Yeah, just something that's not straight south. Anywhere but straight down towards the south.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we do see that sudden shift, that Turkey just sets up on the hilltop.
Well, it's further west this time around. That's true.
Watch it just hard shift east twice. Just ends at the same place. Yeah.
Don't do it.
It's a little bit different to what we usually see. I think a particular area that's going to be really important now is sort of southeast of Sawmill. Between there and Milnar, there's some dips and some hills that you can play around that I think will be really influential in this game. Obviously, if the circle then goes north, then it's not that strong, but generally speaking, that's where the circle should end. That's the power position. That's fuck, you're getting low. But this Gorokka fight is really going to set the tone for the game.
Oh, we survived.
You know, whoever wins this fight and comes out of this with an advantage should be in a strong position. And also, if Turkey can just hold up Russia here, whilst the rest of the team positions, as long as the man advantage doesn't swing too much in favor of Russia, it's going to be really hard for them to then move in later on and take over.
True. It's going to be a hard one for them to really go out and do anything about it, to be fair. But can't say it's not going to be possible. Can't say it's not going to be possible. I don't know. After watching last game, as you were saying just before, I mean, all over the place. I feel like that's a correct phrasing to use. As much under control as they seemed earlier today and have been seeming in the first, I want to say actually both the first games today, that one was kind of it seemed like communication kind of broke down.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they need to make sure that doesn't happen again if they want to come back a little bit in this series and prove that they're capable of beating Turkey again, or whether that angle was just a bit of a one-off. It already looks like Turkey is set up in the middle of the map. So I think now it becomes really important for Russia to open up an advantage with this the Gorokka gunfight, because if they can't trade better than, let's say, 2 for 1 here, if they can't open up to, let's say, 3-4, or they start to lose players like they just lost with Scooby, then it becomes really risky. If you also don't have the circle and you have a man disadvantage, it becomes very difficult to turn that around.
I hate to say that it's going to come down to the individual gunfights, because I feel like these two teams are above just that, but that really has, I mean, at least to me, been the case with how we've seen it happen today, where
yes, you have the likes of former like PEL players and top tier talent, but I would much rather see well orchestrated 4-5 man breaches in buildings than one guy maybe getting 2 knocks but not be able to find the flushes because he's on his own. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, lucky for Russia now, they've got control of the city, and as these players try to run away, as the Turkish players try to regroup and maybe go again, Russia's starting to pick them off. They got one. I think this was someone who was on 1 HP as well. Now the last player's up. Grown here. He needs to get a kill, just 1 kill. Make sure that they don't trade you for free. Yeah, I mean, there you go. There's a free kill for you.
That was a pretty simple one.
Oh, he didn't get it.
As I say that. Nope. The flush comes in at 1 HP.
Yeah, that is a rough thing. In those kind of situations where you get split off, you just need to trade. You know, you need to make sure your life is worth something. And right there, you're worthless. You know, right now you've not had an impact on the game if you go down. And yes, it's only a 1-man advantage for Russia. But if that happens more and more, if they find more and more solo players, they can start to extend that. Maybe a 3, maybe 5 if they can. If they get lucky. And I mean, right now there's an opportunity here for Russia to get in the circle before that group sort of around the Abbey area gets in. They can then get in, and yes, it's only 1-man advantage, but if they then have the power of the circle on their side as well, it's looking like a good game for Russia.
There's a chance for them to make things happen here. Circle is, I mean, again, it's kind of favoring the Turkish players, but where would you settle here? If you're Turkey, where would you put up camp? Because yes, I know Sawmill is a good spot overall, but I don't feel like Sawmill provides you with what you need to play it as a proper position. Do you know what I mean?
I think here, Russia rather is coming from the north. So if you can set up around where Kalimdor is and create a sort of a defensive line and locked Russia in the northern side of the circle, you don't actually need to have players in the south side towards the Sawmill area to actually control it.
True.
So yeah, I want to see them, whatever they do, I want to see them do it as a group. Because there's a timing here where maybe that group around where Vip9 and Lazar are, if Russia can sort of move in and start to take a fight before that group can join in, they really run the risk of being overwhelmed.
Let's see, Russia, they're making their way forward now down towards the south. Here comes the train, but unfortunately no one's on it. It's a little further out as well, so maybe it will catch up with the rotation and then they'll all hop on it. I feel like you've got to be able to surprise people. Like, if you commit to being 32 people on one train, there's no way in hell the opposing team is going to expect that.
I think the problem
that's going to be somewhat of an element of surprise.
Well, where is it right now? It's in the blue, isn't it?
It's towards the north, yeah, exactly. But it's rotating down in the correct direction.
I mean, maybe there's a timing where Russia can get on top of it. They can, if it goes around where Russia are, they can use it maybe to get around the Turkish line. But I think the big problem with the train is once you get off it, because you then have no cars, it's very hard to leave the train station. So I think that's really why we don't see teams use it, perhaps as much as maybe you might want.
I really wanted it for the memes.
Yeah, I think we all do. But now, if we go to this circle here, if we talk strategy for a moment, it kind of looks like Russia has a lot of presence, right? With the fact that they're so far along the coast, but realistically, they have such a thin sliver of land, and they're locked on the western side of the main road. So they actually really don't have much control at all. And if Turkey can pin them there, if they can take control of the Sawmill area, take control of the train station and areas just to the north of that, if Russia sort of gets stuck on the western side of this road, and then when the circle inevitably shifts east, like you probably expect it to do, it becomes very difficult to make it in.
They're all going to have to keep that rotation going if they want to make their way down. And it seems like they're, for the first time in, I feel like, forever, it seems like, Turkey is kind of allowing them to wrap around.
I think that's more an awareness of that they want Russia to be against the coast. They want Russia to be, having limited control. Yes, they could have locked them in the north, but if you're on the north and you have all of the north, you can rotate around in the blue zone, at least this circle, and swing all the way around. Now they've got the water to their back, so they can't do a wide rotation. All they can do is drive further along the coast, which Turkey already has control of. So I think they're trying to make sure that they know exactly where Russia is, and they can make Russia a bit more predictable by locking them at that area of the map.
Well, I'm making their way around. There are people in the train station. Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen?
You want
is it when it happens? Is this it? Come on, jump on. No, they won't.
Say if any team did it, you'd expect it was going to be Russia because obviously Navi, right? Navi did it
exactly.
in competitive. So I wanted to see it, but it looks like we're not going to have it happen this time.
Turkey's waiting for it. They have the ambush all set up, but the robbers forgot to hop on the train, so the police couldn't catch them. That's unfortunate. Let's see the next circle. Well, that's, I guess, a postponement of a circle because I don't think anything really is going to happen off of this one.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity maybe if Russia wants to get a bit aggressive and get across the road. I think they need to go now. And I think if they recognize that, they should put themselves in a good position overall because Turkey's not really fully set up. They still have this group on the south and a group far east. There's not really in a position to support the rest of the team. Obviously, Russia don't know that, but if they find lucky timing where they, they break into the defensive line of Turkey, find a way in before Turkey fully joins up, then maybe there's an opportunity here for Russia to break the map control that Turkey has and maybe to win this game.
Let's see. Deep gets one. It's all tied. I feel like they've been better at keeping players alive than what we've seen a lot in the past of the tournament so far.
Yeah, Nations Royale has been sort of typified by if you get knocked, you're dead. And both of these teams, I think, possess some unique survivability that I don't think we've seen from anyone, as you said. It kind of feels like they don't put themselves in that position where they're running across an open field, where they're in a position where if they do get knocked, it's an insta flush. At least until the later game when it becomes a bit more desperation mode. I think we'll see a lot of knocks right now, and maybe Russia can abuse that. But realistically, there's not really anyone in a position where they can get flushed easily.
No, it's a tricky fight on the West Coast, and to be fair, I don't think I'd be incorrect in saying that this is all literally all going to come down to the next shift. At least to some extent. It's a lot of it is going to come down to where the next circle goes. I
think you have to be expecting that it comes either towards a crossroad or sort of southeast. And Turkey sort of sets up as the defensive team. And it kind of feels like with the way Russia's trying to get a bit more presence on the northern side, as you see here, they've got that sort of right angle shape now. It's allowing, basically, it's pinning Turkey. It's actually on north. So Turkey still has control of the good position in sort of where Schofield is. But Russia, because they had that sort of wraparound on the northern side, they're in a much better position than they otherwise would have if they just stayed on the west.
Let's see. Circle goes up towards the north, and again, feels bad that the trains don't go in that direction.
Oh, that was a free kill for Crizzy, but he didn't quite get the knock. He had a sniper rifle, so I don't know why he didn't use that.
I like how Russia is wrapping around. Goes to show train stations, very important, very important. You need them. It's they're again. We talked about this, and maybe that's kind of coming in as a surprise. I'd be surprised if Turkey gets surprised by anything at this point in the tournament, but they're really, really quick at responding to these circles, and I feel like that's something Turkey hasn't really been up against. Previously.
Sure. And it definitely almost feels like Russia's preempting. They're saying, what shift would be bad? Oh, yeah, if it goes east of that road. So how do we get control of a way to get east of the road? Oh, we just wrap on the north. So by putting themselves in that position where they're basically doing what they need to do in a circle before they have to.
Yeah.
And you compare that to, I think, a team like the Netherlands, which you saw go out on the uppers or the lower semis. They always felt like a team that only went for a fight, only went for a risky rotation when it was absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
And that really, once you run into a team like Turkey or Russia, you just get dominated. So yeah, both these teams have that sort of position, that sort of strategy, which is really why I think a lot of these games, it's sort of unclear who's going to win until maybe phase 5, phase 6.
Yeah, and I still think it is. I mean, Turkey has some hard cover, but you can see how well positioned Russia is right now. Had this been earlier in the game, you could argue that Russia is potentially spread too thin. But I feel like Turkey, it won't be as easy for them to abuse the whole that's separated into individual engagements.
Yeah, Vikendi is such an open map that, realistically, even though Russia's so split up, everyone can sort of have an impact because this area is relatively fat. There are these ridges here or there, but a lot of people can sort of see all the way around the circle, bar into those little ridges. So yeah, the split's not as bad as it looks. And you see here, deep on this western side, could really stop anyone from running up on the eastern team. Yes, I still think I would prefer to be in Turkey's position, having one big group. But let's say this circle now comes north, or this circle now goes west. There's an opportunity really where Russia can pincer them and lock them in this little trench, and just win the game that way.
They're trying to hold off. It's all going to come down to this next circle. I know I've said it before, but this time around, I feel like it might actually be the case.
And that's rough for Russia right here, because they've got that big group on the west, which I think has a couple cars, but it's a lot more difficult for them to get in now because Turkey's so good. A lovely little shot through the slats there by Sixmo. But yeah, it becomes very difficult now for them to push this. Turkey has these sort of the trenches. I think it's a riverbed. That you see Sixmo is like right on the edge of, and they're really a strong position because you can get knocked like this, but how do you flush the kill? Someone just from Turkey just runs over, gets the res, and then you go again. And I think that's why now these trenches are going to be so influential for Turkey. And unless Russia can find a way to breach one of the trenches early on, the longer this game goes on, the more likely I think Turkey are going to win this.
I think it also goes to show, why they're playing the way they are, Turkey, right now. They're playing so many people on the southeast side, so many people straight down to the south. They're expecting Russia to try and wrap around. Like, they're not expecting Russia to want to take this fight head on next circle. So I like the way that that Turkey is now. One thing is, yes, they saw earlier that, okay, these guys react quickly. We need to be ready for it. And they're like really not from game to game or day to day. They're reacting from circle to circle. And I think that's really impressive.
Yeah, but you can't be affording to lose players like that. Apocalypse, I'm not exactly sure what he was doing, but he ran out of the trench for a second, immediately gets shut down. And yeah, I think Russia's win condition now is getting maybe a 4-5 man advantage before they try and crash. Because if it's fairly even, they're going to lose a lot of players as they try to get close. And then it becomes a big advantageous fight for Turkey. So if they can maybe get 5 before they have to get in this trench, then I'll be liking Russia's position. But until then, Turkey are definitely in the ascendancy.
Let's see. Batulin finds 1. It's looking for more. Normally it's like, oh, we got a knock, let's push. Here it's like, oh, we got 6 knocks, let's push. I don't know what it's going to take. Yes, the circle could shift south, then that would be the obviously the go-to call. Then they're going to be forced to move. But I kind of feel like I want to see Turkey try and make a play. Russia, trying to make a play before the circle is potentially forcing them to, because you feel like when the circle is forcing them to, then your opponent's also going to be ready for it. Oh my God, Sixmo. That's
He's hit that shot like 3 or 4 times now. It's lovely little. So, but I'm a little bit nervous for this northeastern group of Russian players. They're stuck in that compound, and I think they have a few cars, but never mind.
Wow.
Never mind. They'll just get the circle instead. That's
fortunate.
I still really like the position Turkey's in, but if Russia can now set up enough players in that northeastern compound, there's an opportunity where one more nice shift and suddenly it's all their game.
What can Russia do to separate these two teams? Because you have a big chunk of players from Russia outside the circle now, down on that northwest side train station. You can see they're starting to taxi people back and forth too. What does Turkey do here to hold off? Because they're really only going to be given 1/3 of the circle now.
I think what they want to do right now is just pick off a bunch of players, right? If they can get 4 or 5 kills this circle as Russia tries to rotate the players around, then they can get in a position where, yes, they don't necessarily have the best position, but if they can start to get knocks like this, then they can use them to really just overwhelm towards the end of the game. When if they can just get a big enough man advantage, it don't really matter that the position is not amazing.
Let's see, Russia able to get more and more knocks, but it's going to be I still feel like it's going to come down to the final brawl, and we've been postponing for so long. It's already phase 6. There's going to be a final push and fight in the middle at some point, and if this circle doesn't jump to either east or west side, then I feel like the players might just get too impatient and run into each other's faces regardless.
Yeah, I don't think we'll necessarily see a big fight this circle. I think it'll be the next one, but I think right now we're setting the scene for it. Can one team get enough kills that they really come in with the driving seat with a big advantage? If it's 27v27, then realistically the fight's going to get determined by the circle. So one team needs to get proactive, needs to find a group that they can shut down. But realistically, I think it's Turkey. If they can shut down enough players on this northwest, make sure they're getting the flushes, then they're going to be in a really good spot, I think, for late game.
Well, it's a kind of a halfway split circle diagonally. This whole trench run is gonna. I really want the game to end there, just because it's gonna force both teams to be really, really creative in how they play. Because I mean, most areas and positions in PUBG are made for squads, so no compound is made for 32 players. And also, given how few players both teams have lost so far, I mean, it goes kind of to show how much is on the line here. Had they not given a crap, they would have pushed 5 circles ago.
Yeah, I feel like if this was 3-0 Turkey, then Russia might have gone for a bit more of a aggressive play and maybe try and catch it. But the fact that it's 2-1, the fact that they know that they can play defensively, you go back to
Wow.
as shifts go, that's quite a nice one for Turkey. And now they're also starting to pick off those individual players, which means that not only do they have the positioning, they also have the man advantage. And realistically, it's their game to lose now.
Well, Russia had some good circles last game, and I feel like seeing that circle is going to be well, I guess we had to go eventually, and now you see the spam coming in. These guys are actually somewhat bundled up. If you get 1 or 2 good nades in there could be a lot of knocks, but the same thing is going the other way. Unfortunately, I don't think the nades are flying quite far enough in that direction. Russia needs to push, and they need to push now, and you can see them all crashing forward.
And this is where Russia just needs a Zerg swarm. They need to go as a big group here and take over the northern trench, because if Turkey's allowed to set up and pick off players one by one, as sort of is happening right now, then it gets to the point where the man advantage would be so much in one favor. He's going to go down. I survived. Well, what a nade by Danamon. That's exactly what they need. An opportunity here where they can push maybe into the trench, get down this little northern group, but the counter nades are coming into Schofield with the initial knock. And realistically, I think now it's just all about the utility. Can Turkey put enough nades on this hilltop to shut down Russia?
Send it forward. I like
You're still alive.
You gotta send it in. You gotta send it in. These 3 guys that you're saying, somehow they're on their feet. If you can underhand jump throw a nade over, you're literally getting 8 kills with 1 nade in that smoke.
And Turkey's starting to put people on the eastern hill as well, which will get a really nice enfilade on this Russian group. They only have cover from the south. So as soon as Cannondor gets a high ground position, look, he can start to shut them down. He gets the initial knock onto 1. Should get the flash door pretty easy, but like once they run a little bit further north, all that Russian cover is gone. There's so many players in one spot right now.
Yeah, it's killer stuff.
Yeah, no, I think now we're going to see players like Cannondor. Yeah, if he can get Batany down, there we go. That's perfect. Now he has free reign to shoot them in the back, free reign to shoot the entire Russian team on this ridge. And as long as Turkey, I think, has some utility, realistically, there's no way out for Russia.
I mean, also just 1 nade. 1 nade could literally end the game right now. 1 nade could take out something along the lines of 7 or 8 players. It's absurd.
What a nade that is.
How this is going down.
What a nade.
Right on the money. Chrissy finds 1 to the face. Molotovs and everything's being thrown forward. Still, look at this. You have the M249 on the hilltop here. That is the exact weapon you want to have when you're looking into the face of death. There's Russian blood all over the place, and all the guys fall apart. Turkey take home the win, making it a 3-1. Not over yet. Remember, it is a best of 7, but wow.
Yeah, and that's the power of getting the circles late game. Russia weren't able to open up that man advantage, which meant that they weren't able to create a chink in the armor. And as soon as Turkey got that nice shift, they just locked Russia out, locked Russia onto that 1 rock. And it was just then about how much utility could Turkey throw at them. It was really nice. I think maybe the game sort of not necessarily ended, but the fact that Russia couldn't get a man advantage from that fight in Goroka, if they come out of that maybe 3 or 4 up, I think the game plays out very differently.
I don't know. I feel like when you play it the way that, I mean, to be fair, on behalf of both the teams, when you play it the way they did, saying we'll take one side, you'll take another, you're kind of leaving that game up for a coin flip.
Yeah,
had it gone to the northeast compound, Russia would probably won it, right? So why not try and actively make a difference on the outcome of the game before you're leaving it into the hands of Brendan Green to decide who's going to win the game?
But that's where we talk about how both of these teams historically have been very proactive, where they've taken a fight or rotation, a circle before they need to. Now it kind of felt like Russia were really scared of taking that gunfight. And the fact that then that big, the horror shift comes in, they're forced into such a bad position here, and they just got absolutely slaughtered. There was nothing they could do. As soon as they got stuck on this rock, Turkey just shut them down. And now 3-1 up for Turkey. Coming into Erangel, they've got to be pretty confident.
Yeah, well, we're gonna take a short break, guys. There could potentially be just one more map left remaining. There could also be another 4, or make that 3 matches left to go. We'll see how things are gonna pan on out as we take it over to the next game in just a moment. But we're gonna take a short break, so stick around and we'll see you just after. We are headed into what could potentially be the final map of the day. I'm Toby, joined by Saint, and we are bringing to you the grand finals of this GLL Nations Royale for EMEA. And it's Turkey, it's Russia. Turkey has 3 rounds of 7 match, 1 more map win, and they can claim the victory, which we expected to see them claim. But it has been a pretty even fight today, I must say.
Yeah, and even the games where, we saw a 27-0 in favor of Turkey, it did not feel like a 27-0. It felt more like it went to the wire because there were so many knock players. And I think sometimes you can't really trust the numbers that happen in a game and more trust the context of each game. But yeah, we're back on a wrangle now. The map that Russia won. So there is that precedent here that this is the map maybe Turkey's defeatable on. True. So maybe this is a chance for Russia to come back into the series. But I think if you're coming into this now, you have to be thinking that Turkey really is in the driving seat to win this out.
Yeah, I gotta look at this. Last 12 kills. That's actually insane. And also kind of interesting to see how Tap has no kills. Like, Tap is absurdly good player. Faultlessly as well. Hasn't found a single kill. They are both very, very talented players who just apparently can't seem to be on the front line when they have to be. Or maybe just get shot in the back.
And I think now that's where this is the game where you need all of Russia to turn up. You need the whole team to turn up to arrest the momentum of Turkey, who since losing that first map and now won 3 in a row, suddenly looking like the Turkey of old. And I mean, both literally and also figuratively, Russia needs to win this one. Obviously, if they lose it, they go out anyway. But it really is last chance saloon now.
Well, east to west split. Same, we've seen it before. Is this going to be? I feel like it's been a while since we had that military circle. Question mark? Ice emote.
I think we're at the point maybe now where Russia needs a spanner in the works to change it up. But a military circle really wouldn't favor them because Turkey has first dibs on both bridges. So I think they're hoping for a sort of a Gaka ending. But I kind of want to go down to Milta power. Give us like a proper southeast ending.
But that would also be bad for Russia. Let's see, where are we headed? Well, we have been up here before. It's been interesting, to say the very least. Actually, it was Ukraine who won a game up here? Or was it Russia? Now I'm unsure.
I think it was one where we went west, right? And we had
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It was...
No, it was Turkey playing.
It was Turkey Ukraine, wasn't it? And then Turkey won.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But also,
that was another game where Turkey actually wasn't in a very good position, and it played out very similar to this, right? Where Russia will potentially be able to get some of the compounds, but Turkey still managed to kind of powerhouse their way through it.
And if you go back further, we've seen quite a few endings now on sort of the southeast side of Stauber. I remember USA versus Canada in season 2. We had one. I think it was the Netherlands. That's in Old Spawn, isn't it? But yeah, we had, I think it was Netherlands versus Ukraine where we had one on the southeast as well. And that side of the island is really a pretty fun place to fight. So I'm kind of curious whether if we get that western shift, I think it becomes a bit of a 50-50. But if it then comes properly onto Stauber, hello, Brendan, or comes southeast, Turkey really is in the driving seat.
And OMG. Did they update everything in there? Can we fly back real quick to the museum? These guys are just looting, and it's not like it could potentially be the final match of a grand final or anything. They were just I saw in the patch notes not too long ago they had updated the museum, and I was just thinking, I wonder what.
Well, they got PGI now, I think.
Is there a photo of me?
PGC rather.
Just a big photo of me.
Is that when you know you've made it? When you're in spawn?
When you make it to the museum on a rankle, that's when you know. That's when you know you've made it. I don't think I'll ever get there, unfortunately. Maybe as an Easter egg. I mean, I have my cheeses. I mean, they clearly made all the cheeses pictures on Miramar after my really amazing hair. That's obviously how and why they did that. But yeah, what about you, Saint? Where are you in game?
Was there any angels? Any saints? Miramar churches. There's got to be something. There's got to be something.
Exactly. Somewhere you'll be able to find an angel.
Maybe I'm quite devout. The cathedral on the hill.
That's That's you. Okay, dedicated to Saint. I like it. It's actually kind of funny. I talked to some producers from PUBG Corp at one point, and the way there's not always. You always think that when they come up with city names and whatnot, that there's this super deep fun idea to it, and it's all part of the bigger picture. But sometimes it's just there's a lot of employee what do you say, tributes, a lot of employee tributes in the names in the city. I know there are a lot of the different city names are based on either last names or fun variations of the first names of some of the people working at or that used to work in PUBG Corp. So that's kind of
fun fact. Yasnaya Poliano is where Leo Tolstoy was born. So
yeah,
I don't know if that's why it's named after, why it's named Yasnaya, but it's a real place in Russia that the was born in. So I think all the places on Erangel are actual places in Russia and Ukraine, and I would assume based off where as you said, where the employees are from.
That I don't know. That I don't think has anything to do with anything. At least not in terms of what I've experienced. Yeah. I've seen some not very Vikendi people be on Vikendi. So I don't know about that one, but it is. Huh?
What country is Vikendi supposed to be in again? I never remember.
North, Nordic, Polish thing.
Well, Pilnek's not very Nordic, is it, as a name? So
no, but.
I don't know. I suppose it's probably also Russia, because obviously Erangel,
Goroga, Peshkova, all those names. I mean,
probably look at another Russian, because I think Karakin is supposedly based in the Middle East, right? Which obviously, the map, and then Sanok is supposed to be in
Mexico.
The Philippines. Miramar's.
Miramar's Mexico, and then you have the mishmash of Philippines and everything for Sanok.
Yeah, we're in
I wonder where a new map would take place, because I feel like we kind of have all of the. I always kind of base it on times of year. This is your fall map. Then you have the summer map, which is obviously, or maybe this is more spring because the leaves are still so green. So this is spring. Then Miramar could be fall. Then you have summer on Sanok and winter on Vikendi, right? So what's next?
We've done the seasons. Do we need a space map?
Yeah. A space map.
Moon.
The only vehicles you can get now is submarines and scuba gear, and then everyone is swimming around underwater.
Do you remember we had? I think it was 2018. There was a Venice leak. There was it turned out it was a fake, but there was a Venice map that was around.
There were 19 billion islands. Yeah,
and it was just all one city. I'm kind of curious to see how an urban city. I mean, bar the lack of FPS.
Oh, that would be horrible.
Yeah,
I think it's FPS, just the play. Oh my lord, just the playability.
Yeah, it'd be. I mean, you just get ambushed constantly.
Yeah, people would just get be camping literally all the time. It would be fun to some extent, but then we're talking UAVs and stuff as well that you would need in order to secure areas, because you would not have any control of what's going on around you.
Yeah, but
if that was the case.
I don't know if you play Warzone, but downtown in Warzone is horrific. It's the only urban area on the map, and because there's so many high points, and you can go sit on the top of the houses, it's such a rough place to play. So I think the fact that we've got so much open area on PUBG really lends itself to some fun gameplay. And talking of fun gameplay, Iro's got a bit of a shooting range right now.
Yeah, it's enough opponents around him that he can have some good times. So let's see. Set, will he light on fire? Yes, indeed he will. He's still in the fire too. You got to get out if you don't want to go down. It does fall. Iro lights Set on fire, and he is going to go down. So 2 players down for Russia. The circle is in favor of Turkey as well. And when we look at like the bigger picture, it seems like all of the Russians here are trying to make the like wide rotation over the north side.
Yeah, Ira keeping to his namesake by using fire. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, thank you for knowing that reference.
Little Avatar reference. I actually rewatched that recently.
I've seen it 7 times. It's the show that I've seen the most now.
I never got to watch it as a kid because we didn't have Nickelodeon in my house. So I got to.
No, I saw it the first time when I was like 18, I think.
They put it on Netflix. I finally got to watch it. And, the Dragon of the West strikes again.
It's amazing.
I think it's honestly my favorite show. But realistically now, if we're going back serious, I think this northern group here is really the win condition for Russia. If they can stay as a group, push around the circle, get control of the actual Stauber area, I think that's the important bit. Because if they can't get up the hill now, if Turkey can hold on, they can treat this like Ba Sing Se and hold on to the walls.
No, sorry, continue.
I mean, I think this should be 4-1 really for Turkey if they can stay up top.
Yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be a tough one, and if you're lucky enough as a Russian, maybe you'll be sent to Lake Laogai. I don't know. We'll see. I remember watching Avatar. There's gonna be a podcast now about Avatar, but I remember watching that and thinking I could be Jet. You know, the guy with the swords, the rebellion. I could be Jet. And look at this, Russia. They can do something too. They're going full speed forward. YOLO! Here they come. Let's see if they can hold off. BSD finds one. Most importantly, gets the flush on them as well.
Yeah, and it's really important he stays up here and just sort of waste a lot of time as the rest of the Turkish players come up. Because if Russia can overwhelm, as they're starting to do now, if they can get into the Stauber area before Turkey can set up a defensive line, I think that's the win condition. That's the way they win this game. And they're starting to overwhelm a little bit. They're starting to get those kills, starting to push their way in. So far, the kill feed's been pretty favorable to Russia. Now you see that 2-man advantage springing up.
What's gonna happen here? Still numbers advantage in for Russia, as you say. But Turkey does seem to have somewhat of a position. Having said that, I mean, they're spread all over the place down towards the south. So they're, I guess, maybe waiting and hoping that... oops, Laza, no one saw that. Maybe waiting and hoping that
Scooby saw
the Turkey's going to shift away.
Someone did see that. Scooby flushes the kill that Larsen accidentally knocked. Now a 3-man advantage Russia. And they found a way into Stauber. It's a nice start for them. They need to keep pushing through. I think they need to get proper control of the, of the actual city proper, right? If they can get the western side as well, force Turkey down the hill, there's an opportunity really for Russia to get in such a good position that Turkey can't shut them down.
Yeah, see, Melman gets himself one more. Numbers only up by 2, and I think it's a smart play from Turkey really just to back off here. I mean, you can't expect the circle to go south, but you can hope for it. Now, I mean, even just this shift. Look at the circle control Russia, Turkey potentially has. It's you just gotta wait. I mean, do kind of like what we saw Russia do last game. Just keep rotating and just wait. Don't lose like 5-6 players getting greedy trying to hold a position.
Well, that made me a little bit queasy. Schofield whiffs his shots onto Priol. Priol just insta kills him. Lovely little turn on. And they're really, I think, perhaps a sign of how this game's gone so far, where Russia's just been winning those gunfights, and they're starting to push that man advantage in their favor now. 5 with a couple knocks to boot. Turkey needs to find a refrag soon. They need to find a way back into this, because otherwise we're going to a 6th map.
There might just be a way that's what's going to happen. Batulen by himself by quite a margin has been standing strong for a while. Finds one more as well. Impressive feat from the captain, able to find 3 knocks and didn't even get the flush on. No! Oh, wait, how the hell did Buckle did not die there? That's surprising.
Yeah, I'm not gonna clue. I'm not gonna Scooby. Russia does, but Batlin gets the kill. Starting to have a bit of an impact here. And it kind of feels like Turkey have got stuck how Russia were in the previous 3 games, where they can't really group up. You know, there's so many stragglers. There's so many different groups that are split off from the main force of Turkey. The Russia's starting to exploit because Russia's been able to group up. You know, we saw them group up on the northern side, and they pushed up the hill and they stayed together. It's just letting them now start to pick off these players one by one. It's an 8-man advantage now in favor of Russia. It's still winnable for Turkey, but they need to do something soon.
Yeah, and where the hell do you play this from if you're like on the side of on the side of Turkey. I think that's their main issue right now. They say fall back, which makes sense, but fall back where? You gotta have pretty clear comms when it comes to those things as well. You can't just give out half communication. You can see Code Marco, he's kind of snaking his way up here behind all the opponents. If he can get maybe 2 or 3 players, the thing is, we've talked about it before, one knocked player means all of a sudden the opponents don't know how many players to expect. Finds the first, finds the second as well. Code Marco, nice shooting. And now, as you see, instantly 6-7 players from Russia turn around to try and say, oh my god, there's going to be people coming from over there. That's when the remaining Turkish players need to stop making the run, because look at this, half the team is pushing to the east just because of one player getting 2 knocks.
Yeah, but finally he's going to be spotted, taken down by Millman. And yeah, it's going to slow them down, but the fact that he only is able to get 2, because it's such a big deficit already for Turkey, it's not as influential as it would be if if it was, say, let's 23 versus 23 and Code Marco does something like that. It really changes the game, because they already had that 7-man advantage. They sort of had the liberty to send those players over, and it not really affect their overall playstyle. We see they still have pretty good control of the circle. There is an opportunity here with this shift that the area around 6 mode that Turkey can control. But the fact that they lost the hilltop, the fact that Russia got control of the high ground, means that they pretty much have free reign to shoot down on Turkey and take them out.
Well, Smash is looking over the top, has an arm, not exactly the worst weapon to have handy in these situations. He's looking around. He knows they're going to have to make their way, at least to some extent, down the hill. Oh, did you see one? Oh, that's a nice little quick peek. Nope, can't connect the shot. Would have been one for the show reel, though. It was a nice quick peek to get the info, and then peek again to try and take the shot, but unfortunately it wasn't quite there.
And now it kind of feels like it's a bit of a delaying the inevitable here, as Russia really is in the ascendancy, really is in the, I think, probably a 80, maybe 90% chance of winning this game. They need to make a mistake, really, for Turkey to punish. But if they're going to start running down the hilltops, if there's those individual players can get picked off, and the man advantage disappears. So this MK14, maybe that's the opportunity, the win condition for Turkey, to start picking off those players and make sure they get the flushes. But Danamon sneaking up. Don't know if 1,000 Days saw him.
Well, 7 players down. Suppressed barrel. I feel like that's not the weapon of or the attachment of choice for most people.
Yeah, I mean, suboptimal, I think is the best way to describe it. Danamon's been right next to... Ooh, hello. How's he survived that? It was literally...
I mean, he does have level 3 gear, which does...
I suppose that does have an effect.
Of the damage. Yeah, exactly.
I forget that's the thing. That second aid might be good, but again, I think it would have to be dead on him to get a kill. Yeah, it rolls off. Turkey is starting to get those initial kills, but I think they're really struggling to get flushes. Every time they're getting these knocks, there's no real executions coming in, and that's really why Russia's able to keep the man advantage, because when Russia gets kills, they're always flushing them out.
Well, let's see. Dynamite's trying to hold off. They need to get, I want to say, at least 2 knocks per player right now in order to even have a chance. I mean, we're talking early on here. If they lose 3 or 4 players now before getting kills in on Russia, it should allow for the Russian team to push forward pretty easily. On up does find one. Lassa is there to find one more. Gets the flush on him. 2 nice playing coming in. Oh no, he wanted to hit that one.
And Turkey's finally starting to wake up. They're starting to wake up. These nades are good as well. I think they should be able to get the kill. Ooh, yeah, eventually. But they're starting to get those untraded kills. But Russia finally is starting to strike back. Knocks are coming in. It's all about now. If Turkey can get the reses back in, they're in a really good spot. If that Eastern group can come over and have an impact, we see Groans getting a bunch of knocks right now from the Eastern edge. If they can keep doing that, keep getting these players down and then flush them out, there's maybe an opportunity here for Turkey to turn it around. But if Carl's going to start killing his teammates, it's not going to be long for the world.
Yeah, Russia pushing forward. You can see numbers still in the advantage, up by 8 now, and even trying to get reses. 10 seconds to go. I don't know. I feel like Senpai might want to focus on pushing forward. But I'm not sure. Will he be able to get the rest up here? Should potentially be able to. Laza didn't want to give up his position, but does have to. Finds the flush on 1 as they now find themselves in a 7-player deficit. But look at this. Kills continue to come in for Turkey.
Yeah, and once again, though, the flushes just really aren't coming in. They've got Senpai down at least, but it's still a 5-man advantage for Russia. They're still in a good position. They're slowly but surely whittling it away. But realistically, I think Russia's still in a good position, unless Laza can do something special here and maybe get 3 or 4 down.
He's already got 3, I believe, this game. So asking for 3 more would be kind of rude. If you kill half the team, then maybe we can win. When is he going to spring the trap, though? That's the question. When is he going to peek out? If he's just going to sit here and wait for them to push, I don't feel like that's going to happen for a while. Calendar went down before, now Grown goes down as well. You can see more shots being fired over the top. Lassa not peeking just yet. Russian kills are coming in, though. And again, when you're down, you need 1, maybe 2, even 3 potentially kills going your way for every single player you see go down. So it's tough for them that that is not right going their way.
Yeah, I like the idea here from Laza, but there comes a point where if so many of your teammates go down before you strike, it comes a point where your team's so far down that even if you do get 2 or 3 here, you're not in a great place. So maybe he needs to be a little bit more proactive. But he's got his armor's broken. He's got like 1 shot left of his helmet. Maybe this is all he can do.
I like the push around the ridge here. They know that there are smokes coming, smokes blocking the view. They know that they're healing on the backside and getting rests up. So maybe Poloderic and Lassa can do something. There are 3 players down here, and if they can get these kills in, there is a Grocer and level 3 gear up close. If they can get the kills here, there might just be a chance for them to make some plays. Kissing is there. Lassa finds the first. Voldemort finds the second. It's just 1 more on the side, and they find all 3 unreturned. Actually, Lassa finds even more damage coming in there. Great play for the team, and that might just have opened up a site for them to push over.
Yeah, this might be the turning point for the matchup. They're starting to get kills now. Let's go down, though. They're starting to get traded back finally from Russia. Larsen needs to still make more plays. He gets 1, gets 2.
Wow.
They're all down. And suddenly there's 4, maybe even 5 Russian players getting down, and Turkey starting to get the reses in.
I think Lassa has somewhere along the lines of 8 knocks this game.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of work. But I think he has to do a little bit more still, because it's still 9 to 15. Yes, they're getting these flushes, but a couple of players on the eastern side were going down at the same time. Mm-hmm. So Russia is still in the driving seat, still has that man advantage that is a little bit risky. But Lars is once again, he strikes to get another knock.
And
he's going off right now.
It's gone far out east, and that's, I think, the main issue. Because yes, Turkey might be losing a few players, but they're spending all that time rotating over, trying to get themselves into a better position for the circle. And if you're Turkey right now, you need to get back down the ridgeline, and you need to start running like a madman. Just B20. He's all on his own right now. He needs to hold off strong against this. Oh, that's an 8. Against this Russian team who is currently trying to push for full center control.
Yeah, and if I think Pokemon Order gets control of this ridge here, basically the whole of Turkey gets locked out, and that's exactly what they didn't want to happen. Now all of a sudden there's no cover left for Turkey. They're getting ripped apart. Russia really trying to close this game out right here, and it looks like they're going to be able to do it, bar something special from Laza. He has 5, but I think at this point he needs 10.
Let's see if he can do it. He does have an MK. It's a scary gun up close, but I don't think they have the guns needed. No, finally, the Giant does fall. Mithralius is there. Voldemort is there. I believe it's the last 2 players alive on the team. Voldemort, yep, there he goes, and there they fall. We are headed into a potential second to final map of the best of 7. Wow. Again, no one other than Russia would have beat Turkey in this game. Russia barely did it, and they were getting gifted in the end of the game massively. I mean, yes, the circle didn't shift on top of Russia, but it's so much easier trying to hold the downhill than potentially having to try and play defensive as they come pushing up.
Yeah, and I think that big changing point was the fact that Turkey lost control of Stauber. Yeah, I think if they'd been able to commit more players there and prevent Russia from pushing up the hill, then there was an opportunity where they could have just shut the game down then. But Russia got control. They beat down these players in BSD, and the rest of the team wasn't there to support. And it just from there for the rest of the series, it kind of felt like because Russia had the high ground and they were always shooting down, they were always in the advantage in these gunfights.
Well, it's going to be a close one. There is a chance now that Russia wins the next one, and then we would head in the grand finals into the very final map. But you're correct now in what we said earlier. 2-0 on Erangel. How is Erangel the map that they lose on?
Well, I think both times. I mean, the circle didn't help Russia here, but it kind of feels like they have the positioning down on this one. They recognize the importance of the high ground, especially on the Stauber circle. They got control of the hilltop, pushed down from there. It was all their game. So I think maybe Russia's just a little bit more comfortable on the map. But now that we go into that Miramar, which was so dominant for Turkey, I'm still expecting Turkey to come out of this with a win.
We'll see. We'll see. Maybe they're just toying with it. It was a close one, that's for sure. Pretty much, I mean, the majority of the games have been so far. But there's more PUBG coming your way, guys. We're going to take a break, and then we'll be back and ready with Miramar in just a moment. We have got a potential of one map coming up. We've got a potential of two maps coming up, depending on the outcome of the next ones. Miramar is up next as we are headed over to map number 6. Russia. They don't seem like they want to give up just yet.
Yeah, at least on our angle, they're looking pretty good. But now we come back to a map which Turkey's already won. Turkey already looked really good on Miramar as well. We saw, the southwestern circle, where despite the fact that Russia maybe had a nicer position, it really didn't work out. Lars is on 17 kills. What on earth?
That's absurd.
He's got basically a 3 KD after no more than that. 3.5 KD coming out of 5 games. As absurd. And we saw how much of an impact he had in that last game, even though they lost. I think he still had 7 or 8 kills. So it was a really big performance from him. Something which we don't generally tend to see. I mean, you look at the Russian team. 8 is the next best. 8 is the best of their team. It's
that's insane.
A very big difference, and that's something we rarely see in Nations Royale. Someone get that many kills. I mean, that's basically half of one game. I mean, it's more than half of one game.
That is, I don't want to say unheard of, but that is very, very, very not very often you see that.
Yeah, it's a rare one for sure. And if you can have that kind of impact in this game, I think you have to be putting Turkey as the favourites to take this and go 4-2. On the night.
It's I think it's gonna I mean you kind of feel like he's doing a pretty good part of the lifting right now, but what if the rest of the team had been there with him, so it wasn't just all him. No, I'm kidding. It's of course.
I think there was really an opportunity for Turkey to win that game, and they kind of lost it as soon as they lost control of the hilltop.
Yes.
So I think it was always, even though Lars was having such a big impact, you basically needed 3 or 4 players to do that kind of thing for Turkey to have a chance in that game, because Russia got such a big advantage. But now coming into this one, there's a lot less positions on Miramar than there are on Erangel, where you just take that high ground and you just win from there. I think there's a lot more 50-50 gunfights you can get on this map. True. That's kind of, I think, maybe why Russia's doing better on Erangel than this one, and that circle is very nice for Turkey.
Oh yeah, it is all the way down towards the south. But I mean, I feel like we've now seen both teams have circles where you would expect one team to win, but in the end, it's the other team that wins.
Yeah, I mean, Turkey had the initial circle last time. Yeah, in the Stab one we had that. What was the Russia one? It was the Miramar match, right? But they had the nicer position and they lost it. So yeah. Maybe the teams are more comfortable being on the attack than defense, which I think was something we said, at the start of the game. But then if we look at the first Erangel, where Russia were on the defensive and won out from that, maybe it's just a case of maybe Turkey's happier being on the offensive. And when they're forced to be the defensive team, we look at both Erangels now where... Also, we look at that last Erangel where Turkey was stuck on the defensive. They really didn't seem to have an answer. So maybe that's the main condition for Russia, is to force Turkey to be the defensive team.
Could be. There's argument that can be made that whenever I feel like we've seen that with multiple teams now, that whenever we have a situation where one team is forced to play not another play style, but very few teams we've seen, and I don't know why that is, but because I feel like in terms of competitive PUBG, everyone's able to adapt. I mean, that's pretty much, if not the
adapt XD.
If not consistency, then adapt is probably the second most said word ever. In terms of hold that spot. Let's just see this. Both Eric's trying to hold off against literally half the Russian army.
They naded themselves, I think. No, the nade's gone off now, but they stopped themselves from running up the road because of their nade. And if Belado can get another knock here, if he can get that Molotov down, no, not quite. It finally gets flushed out. And also, I think they'll get both reses. So in the end, it actually becomes a one-man advantage for Russia, but it almost worked out really nicely for Belado.
What I was going to say before is the teams that can adapt in these situations tend to also be the teams that that end up getting themselves the wins. And having said that, I feel like teams have been surprisingly good at doing that and still not winning. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
So teams they go like, okay, we have to play aggressive now. Let's do that. And then they do, and it should work out, but they're still, for reasons that sometimes are, I guess, easily explained, and for the most part isn't. It just doesn't work out. I mean, we saw moments where we go, okay, these guys should win the game based on the circle, but then one bad shift or one thing happening means that it doesn't end up happening.
And I think now Turkey has to recognize, I think with the zone that's happened, they need to be the defensive team. They need to set up, I think, between Tumor and Los Leones. You know, if they take like the church area, if they take control of the hill southwest of Leones, those two positions are really influential in this circle. And yes, they're probably not very comfortable playing that style. I think they prefer to be the attacking team, as we said. But if they can change it up, they can switch to that more. Ooh, that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate for you, She Created, as you get taken down. Danamon going to hit you with a pound for good measure. You had to hit those shots. And now it's a 3-man advantage for Russia. A nice early game. But yeah, Turkey still has control of the circle. They can get control of the church, which, as I was saying. And those kind of positions, if Turkey has control of them, they can sort of forget about the man disadvantage, use those positions to really influence the game. And if they can adapt to that defensive style, as you were saying, they should be in a really good position to win this game out still.
Let's see. Russia has yet to place a single player inside the circle just yet. And also, I mean, if you're Russia, they're pretty well spread right now, but they, at least in terms of early circles, they've tended to always rotate into them together. I just don't really see where is the smarter rotation point for this Russian team right now.
Oh. The struggle bus is in town, is trying to drive over. And there's a risk here where maybe Grown gets a timing. Right? He's going to get obliterated as he drives towards this. There's 4 people in that car. But if he can get a timing where he can pull up and light the car up, or if he can bait them into someone else, maybe they can take him out and get a, completely swing that man advantage back in their favor. But realistically, what's going on?
Wow, that is a.
Oh, there's the kill. Big for Russia now. 4-man advantage. I was thinking about how I should play this. It started teleporting on screens, so it's always nice to see. But yeah, four men there. I mean, once you drive towards that and you start getting shot, you're in a rough spot because there's nothing you can do to really survive that.
Ooh. Yeah, that
was a flashbang.
Tries to throw one over. Gets blinded in the midst of it. Circle is pushing in now as well. This is a fight for absolutely nothing. But then again, I mean, circles aren't. We've seen it before many times actually. Circles aren't always that important here.
Yeah, and 11, luckily for him, had the player underneath him get knocked. Otherwise, I think he was about to get shut down. But there's a real risk here that Turkey starts losing a lot of players because they have so many stragglers on this eastern side. If all these players go down without really having an impact on the game, I mean, yes, Turkey's going to have control of the central side of the circle. But if let's say it's 6 or maybe even 7-man advantage for Russia, it becomes to a point where it's so much that they can't really do anything about it.
They have lost quite a few already. Make that 6. Dynamon found a kill with was it a pan? Yes, it was. I couldn't tell if it was the machete. I feel like the machete is a little more badass when it comes to...
I'm just a bit curious why there's so many Turkish players just sort of stuck on the season side, like what they're doing to be here, because they're all just getting wiped out one by one. And I mean, it's about to be an 8-man advantage for Russia. And I don't think there's anything really they can do about it. Yeah, Levent goes down as well. 8-man advantage already. Turkey has to do something really good to turn this back. Otherwise, we're going to map 7.
There is a universe where it does happen. They managed to get it going their way, but I don't know. It's
I think the only real caveat is the fact that all of Russia is where it is stuck on the northeast, right?
Yeah. Maybe
Turkey can get a lot of control. But I'm surprised now. Turkey should sort of recognize they're all up there. There's an opportunity maybe where they can move all the way to the eastern edge and just, literally pin Russia outside of the circle, which they're not doing. And I understand why they're not doing it, but they sort of run a risk where, now they let Russia in, and then Russia gets one nice shift, and suddenly Russia just wins the game.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, despite them losing on Miramar earlier, it was a close one, that's for sure. So we'll have to wait and see. It ain't over just yet.
And I think a big part of why Russia lost that game initially on Miramar was that they didn't get to group up until phase 3, phase 4. Now they're in that one big blob. Yes, I mean, look at that circle. And you think about how much control Turkey has over the west side. Russia can still take control of the city. If they then get a nice eastern shift, it becomes very difficult. But I think now you're posturing towards, there's the silo area around the southern edge. We see a lot of endings sort of around within about 50 meters of that. So I think one team that can fill that up with, say, 6-7 players and hold on to it for the whole game is going to be in a really strong position coming into these later circles.
We'll see. They are down. As you said, 8 players deficit. That is far below optimal, I should say, not beyond optimal. Far beyond what you want to do in this situation. And I don't know. I mean, again, is there one team that can do it? Then it's probably Russia. Mm-hmm. Can they do it against the likes of Turkey? Can they do it against the likes of Russia in this situation? Probably not, but I don't know.
Well, we saw Russia return the favor with the 6-man disadvantage earlier, so I think I think it's definitely possible. It really relies on, I think, zones now. If we get something that ends around these silos, and Turkey can't get a good foothold on it before Russia can start to feed players into it, then it becomes very difficult for, I think, Turkey to do anything about it. But if the circle now comes west, if it comes out of Lyons properly, then it becomes very difficult again for Russia to jump down, because there's cliffs, there's open areas, on this western edge that become very difficult to cross.
It's I feel like maybe we're seeing Turkey on their weakest when they play defensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like it sounds so weird, but when they're getting the circles, it seems like that's when they're that's when they're struggling. When they don't have to move, when they're not forced to do those crazy runs into straight into the opponents. It seems like that's when they struggle, when it theoretically should be easier.
And I think that's
again good for them.
I think that's just because Turkey doesn't really group up when they're on the defense. They like to spread out and take a lot of control. And we see here, like half their team is in the circle right now. They have a lot of presence on the eastern edge, but that group sort of where Lazar is, if that gets pushed heavily, the players on the west can support it, but they run the risk of losing 3 to 4 for maybe 1 kill. So I want to see Turkey now start a group up around Iro, start a group up around Thunderlost, and really lock Russia on the north side of the road, and then just play it kind of like how we saw Vikendi, where you wait for the circle to come back onto your side of the road and you win that way.
Well, here you go. There's literally sending it down the hillside. Here comes Russia. They are not over just yet. They're going for it. Can they turn this one around and turn it into a win? I said it when we had Turkey win their 3rd game, that there was no way that Russia was going to be able to bring it home, and I guess they wanna prove me wrong.
Yeah, I think this is really nice for Turkey in terms of the north-south divide now. The fact that Russia has no presence on the south side of the road, if it stays that way later on into this, with phase 5, unless you get something lucky for Russia, this road is so difficult to cross. But there's the one saving grace of the fact that there's really not many people right on the southern edge of this road. There's a timing here where maybe if Russia gets aggressive now, they can get across before Turkey really sets up. But the longer Russia waits, I think the more Turkey's able to fortify their position, the harder it becomes for Russia to make a push in. That 8-man advantage is still going to be big. If they do get that one big gunfight that happens, then they're going to be in a great place. But right now, I think Turkey has an opportunity to start maybe picking off 1 or 2 players here or there. And if they can bring it back to maybe a 3 or 4, it then becomes a lot more difficult for Russia.
Well, let's see. Where there's a will, there's a way, they say, and despite being down by 8, I mean, it's been a while since we had a last player go down, to be fair. As I say, that Code Marco could be the next one to fall.
Yeah, Kissik's got a nice little off angle where he might actually be able to get a nice timing on players like Code Marco, but actually Zorf does it himself. Code Marco goes down, and once again, the stragglers from the Turkish team are positioning themselves in places where, once again, there's no support. You know, they get taken out, and now, once again, Russia extends the man advantage for really no risk. And now it just comes to a point where Russia's so far ahead that really Turkey can't do much about it.
It's going to be hard. 10 players down. This would require one hell of a turnaround if they want to have any chance of winning this one. Mm-hmm. What are you going to be able to do here, Kizik? Looking over, goes for one as well. And again, catching them completely off. It just seems like that's kind of the name of what's going on here.
And they're finding the trades at least, and this circle should be good. But now Russia's, you see, they started to get across the road. They've forced really Turkey to start falling back. And I think this is where the 10-man advantage really comes into favor. They can just start to flood this compound here, wipe out this group around where Ira is, and get to the point where Turkey is so depleted that even if they have control of the circle, they can't hold on.
Well, as you can see, they're pushing on through still. The 10-man advantage stays at, and Russia, they at least it seems right now like they're going to win it, and I don't see how they can't. I mean, Turkey is split all over the place. They are getting some kills in now, but as you can see, I mean, as soon as they get 3 knocks, immediately you get 3 knocks in return for Russia. And as you're saying, this seems like a GG, and I think it's the final one.
Yeah, I mean, Turkey need to do something special here, and I just don't see it happening. There's a lot of players that just aren't involved in this fight. I mean, you look at 10,000 Days, you look at it was that Carl down on the south side. All this group, I mean, what are they doing? They're doing nothing. You know, they're not having impact on this fight at all, which has allowed the stack of Russia to just overwhelm a severely depleted Turkish force. And now 13v30. I mean, I just don't see a way for Turkey to come back in this game.
No, I don't think it's going to happen either. It's impossible at this point, to be fair, for them to make a turnaround. Russia lost 2 players so far. In a game where they were never inside the first circle at all, pretty much. Like they came in at circle 2. Turkey had all the time to set up, and they just never utilized it.
I think it was all once they got that 8-man deficit because they had all those strikers on the east. Once that happened, it got to a point where I already felt, even though they still had 24 alive, it almost felt like it was all over then, because Turkey as a team works so well when there is one big group. You know, when they take that big gunfight together, that has been their strength so far. And it kind of feels like we're watching a completely different team right now, where they're playing so individualistic. And they're not playing as one stack, and they're just getting ripped apart by a Russian team that suddenly has got a breath of life in it. Yeah. Turning up on a map other than Niringale. There it goes, and now Russia wins 3-3.
Wow, we're actually headed into the final game. That's I mean, it's amazing for a grand final, to be fair, but that is far from what I expected coming in to this grand final. Turkey had been playing lights out up until that point. They started off strong as well, and I was thinking, well, this is going to be over, well, now essentially, and I guess Russia still had something in them, and they were going to have a little more in them, because we headed on over to Vikenti next.
40, maybe 50 maps in a row that Turkey had won, and now they get to the finals versus Russia, and they lose 3, potentially even going to lose another one as well. And right now, I think coming into this last game, you have to say that Russia looks really good. They seem to have a breath of confidence, or maybe they've knocked the confidence out of Turkey a bit with the 3 map losses. And yes, it's going to Vikenti, which is a map that Turkey's already won. But we went to Miramar, which is a map that Turkey's already won, and Russia just smoked them. So I think it's very difficult to say who might win this last map. And I'm really excited to see if Russia can upset the apple cart.
I honestly have no clue. I feel like we've seen everything now in terms of teams turning games that they shouldn't have won into wins. Both teams have done that now, in my opinion. Both teams have had games where you feel like the game is trying to give them everything they want, which then ends up being a loss regardless. And I honestly don't know coming to the final one. I mean, you got to say that Russia kind of has the momentum now. Will it carry over into Vikenti?
I guess we'll have to wait and see, because we are going to take a short break, guys, and I'll be back and ready with the final game of the day. We have made it, something that I don't think either Saint or I could have predicted. We have reached game number 7. It's set and match. It's overtime. It's the very final one. And what better map to go to than Vikendi?
Yeah, I mean, if there's ever a map where it's pretty much 50-50, I think it's this one. We've seen Sanok was pretty good for Turkey, and Miramar was a bit of a 50-50. Erangel, Russia's map. But that initial Vikendi game really came down to the wire. Yes, I think it was something like 20-0 in the end, but it was only really because of that phase 7 that we saw last time. So I'm expecting this is going to be a super close one. This goes on the line.
It's going to be close for sure. And well, I mean, I'm still going to keep my ass out on the trains, but at the same time, I feel like I have to less meme and more seriousness. We are talking about the very final. I guess we can kind of call it overtime. I mean, it's still in regular time, but there is no overtime. So it's the very final match. And we are headed into Vikendi to determine the victors of this this season, the full seasons of Nations Royale for EMEA. And I must say that with how well we have just seen the Turkish or the Russian team perform, I think they're going to win it.
I still have my faith in Turkey. I think it'll be a close one. I think we'll go right down to maybe a phase 6, phase 7 ending. But I think it really depends as well what kind of circle we see. Do we see the traditional, South circle that we've had so many times now? Are we finally going to get something new? If it seems like both teams are sort of committing to that southern side, expecting another one. But if we now get something really weird, like up on the north side, it's all about which team reacts that fastest, which team gets in the high positions and sets up for that big gunfight.
Well, you can see them. They're scattering all over the place. This time a little more tangled than I would say we've seen them do previously. Maybe they're getting a little tired of this, getting late. I mean, they're all of them. I mean, at the I guess further eastern time schedule than we are, it's almost 11:30 for me. So maybe some of them are sitting playing. It's like 3 a.m. for them right now.
Yeah, no. We've got 10 seconds into the circle. I think this is going to decide a lot. Are we going to see the traditional southern side? Here we go. Well, I mean, it's a little bit different. We go West Coast.
As can be, to be fair, but we are headed towards the west once more. It's as if north is just a no-go when it comes to this game for some reason.
I think now we're going to see a big divide on that main road that goes right across the middle of the map. I think that's going to be a really big divide. But this right here is an important moment, I think, for the game. We saw last time Russia were able to get a little bit of an advantage. Russia weren't able to get the advantage on the previous weekend. Here's as X has his fun. But if Russia were unable to punish the fact that they landed right next to Turkey last time. And I think this time there's an opportunity maybe, for one team to come into this circle with an advantage. And I think the team that does probably is the team that wins.
Yeah, you'd have to expect. So we'll see how fast they move. Who's going to get to the circle first? Kalimdor or Kizik?
Kizik, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I say that. Both teams can answer with neither. They both die on the way.
They both get killed before they get. It was a trick question all along. Could be that you're right on that one too.
I mean, if he's crashed, then he's definitely not.
Oh yeah, he's probably not going to get that first.
So
maybe he's really healthy. There's also the chance that he's just incredible.
Oh, he just wants scream time. Yeah.
Yeah, that too. It is nice, a little horseback riding outfit that he's wearing. So
I love that he's actually got a Vikendi setup, where he's wearing all white.
Yeah, got to try hard, Final game and all.
If there's ever a time to try hard, it's right here. I was kind of hoping we'd get a brawl, another fist fight.
Oh no, that would be. I feel like there's too much on the line at this point for that to be the way to finish out this one. But there you go, Kalimdor is back. AFK for a little while, but he is now on the battlefield. No one's gone down and everyone's connected. We have set up for perfect finish to what has been a pretty interesting day already.
And it feels like Russia, you can see a lot of their players already moving in. And it feels like they want to set up, they want to be the team on the defensive this time, maybe. And DA, or rather Turkey, not DA, at least maybe looting a little bit later than Russia are. Maybe that's a sign of the fact that they don't want to be the team in the middle of the map. They don't want to be the team stuck defending. But I think if we go back to the previous Vikendi match, having those really strong positions seems to work out on this map a lot more than it does on Erangel and Miramar.
Here's your train. Is there anyone on it?
Unfortunately not.
Disappointed.
Can we just, if one team just gets on the train, all their players, can we just immediately give them the win? And then it's just a race to get all your team on the train.
I feel like that'd be fair. That'd be fair. Just, you know what? You wrote the train. You win.
I'd kind of like to see a sort of a Nations Royale where we use like different game modes. Because is it Platoon Conquest is called? It's kind of really fun. I don't know if you tried it out. But like one thing you could do is make our own game modes. Like you have to get your whole team, or it's like a fight for the train, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to see one day.
Every second you have a player on a train, you accumulate like time points.
This was like a hard point,
and you have to in total have had like 15 minutes of train time or something stupid like that. That would be my favorite game mode. Or have the same but with gliders.
But back to this game mode, it kind of, I think you can definitely see the strategy for both teams starting to come about. Russia's trying to group up in the middle of the map. Turkey's taking their time, rotating in slowly from the east. I think maybe waiting to see what Russia does, waiting to see where that Circle 2 goes before they really commit to anything. So it kind of feels like once again we're going to have a little bit of a slow game on Vikendi where we really build up to that crescendo of Phase 5, Phase 6.
Well, let's see. Turkey maneuvering their way in. It's not exactly the fastest rotation, but I like that they aren't all there. And now they've lost 2 games in a row on not playing the play style that I would have thought they would try to commit to play all the time. So liking that they're saying, you know what? No, let's just take a breath. We lost 2 now. We can turn it around by just going back to what worked in the beginning.
Yeah, I want to see Turkey just stay pretty close to each other. Stay as a pretty coherent group, because if they start to spread out again and Russia can exploit that as they have in the last 2 maps, then realistically Russia should win this. But I still think, I think Turkey will recognize that they need to play more like they have traditionally rather than changing it up. So it's back to their old style, and I still think Turkey will take this map.
We shall see. We shall see. We shall see. It's the final one, so there's only one more map to take. If any. It's when we look at the map and we see all of Russia being kind of clocked out on the west side, and then you have Turkey coming in from the east. I feel like it's gonna be. I mean, there's a pretty big chance, if not guaranteed, that it's gonna be a repeat of what we saw earlier. I don't feel like maybe it's because teams don't know Vikendi well enough so far that they split out in more, not strange positions, but maybe wider, because you don't know every dip. You don't know what compound is like the top one as opposed to the other compounds in your area. And I feel like, as you can see now, circle centering up here, this could just be one of those Phase 7, Phase 8. Oh, okay, now that one team got the advantage, they win the game.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe where, if one team takes the initiative and engages a fight earlier than they need to, maybe they can be the team that wins this out. Yeah, because we saw, you go back to the previous Vikendi. Why is he so yellow? It's neon. But there you go. But you go back to the the previous Vikendi where Russia sort of waited and didn't do anything for like 5-6 circles, and then it got to Phase 7. Suddenly they were in an awful position, and Turkey just shut them down. So maybe Russia's win condition here is to get a little bit proactive to try and find a gunfight. I mean, you go back to that Miramar game we just had. Before Phase 1 had ended, Russia had killed 8 Turkish players. Yeah. And that was really why they won the whole match out. So a bit of early aggression. I mean, whichever team I think is the aggressor, whichever team finds that chink in the armor they can shut down, I think will be the one that wins this map.
It's it sounds about right. Look at this, Kalimdor, Kizik, Kalimdor, Kizik. Oh, did you say Kalimdor or did you say Kizik?
I say Kalimdor, I believe.
Oh.
That might be a lie. I might have said Kizik. I said the one that whoever won.
Oh, that's
honestly can't remember.
Yeah.
Did I
Who's
say?
your favorite team? The one that wins? Yeah, I see. I know that type of football fan.
Luckily, I'm not one of those. What I never understand is people that don't support their local team. That I find
I just
interesting.
don't care about football. If I was to support my
Yeah.
local team, we'd never accomplish anything.
Well, we might.
I mean, depending on how local do you have to be? Is it like the small city you grew up in, or is it like the closest by Premier League scale?
Like when I was a kid, so I was born in Oxford, and Reading is about 40 minute drive from Oxford, right?
Yeah.
And my dad used to take me to the Reading games because it was close to where we lived, and they were a better team than Oxford. They still are. They were a better team than Oxford, so we always went to the Reading game. So
were they in the same league and everything?
No, well, Reading were in the Premier League back then.
Like better league.
Yeah, Reading were in the Prem, 15 years ago. Whereas Oxford were like League Two, I think, so fourth division.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so I've always been a Reading fan, even though I've moved away now. I still support the team that was local when I grew up. I kind of feel like
when I was a kid, I used to say I could have like my top league team. I could have a favorite team from each league, kind of. If that makes sense.
I suppose
because the team that I supported would never ever come anywhere close to the top league. It was just like a small city of 1,500 people, local team.
Well, like now I've moved further north. I live in Nottingham, so there's oops, where he's just got smacked by his teammate. But now I'm living in a different city. I kind of feel a bit of mixed loyalties, right? I mean, I actually went to the Nottingham versus Reading game, so in the same league, in Nottingham, but I was in the Reading end, so I'm still loyal to my roots. Yeah,
there you go.
That's the way to be. Yeah, back to the game. This compound.
Back to the game. Thanks for the discussion. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. And we're both getting tired, but
you get to the point where
I'm gonna say it's still hilarious. That's what I love about this game mode. It's
it's unique.
It's just a fresh breath of air. That's like this game to me. I think it's just amazing for all that.
I mean, it's so unique in the way it plays out. Yes, there's some games like this one where you have nothing happen for 15 minutes, and then you get that crazy moment. You get 5 minutes of total carnage that I think is just, there's nothing really like it. I do really think Nations Royale. Actually, I would say Squads is always going to be my favorite game mode in this. But in terms of watching, I honestly prefer this to Duos. I think Duos is just such a slow and it's not boring, but like it's kind of predictable in the way it plays out. Nations Royale, anything can happen. I mean, you can get a weird shift like this where now suddenly Turkey, do they need to go on a crash and we see a 20 versus 20 fight in a compound? I mean, name another game mode that has that much chaos in it.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember one time raiding Orgrimmar in Vanilla WoW. That was pretty chaotic. But no, other than that, I honestly don't quite know.
And I think that's exactly why it's become a thing in GLL. I mean, I think GLL are the only people really to do it, to do this game mode. It's a nice little niche to have.
Yeah, and making it a competitive thing too. I think that's really awesome that they actually care to do something like out of the ordinary. That isn't just your average squad. I mean, I don't want to say just because I love it, but that isn't just your average or usual game mode.
And I think it is surprisingly competitive as a mode as well, because you see, I mean, the fact that Turkey have made the final and won, 2 out of 3, probably, well, maybe going to win this one. If they win back to back to back, I think that's a testament to how competitive it actually is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But right now, they're not in a great position. Russia has control of the good positions in the circle, and they have control of the main compounds, and that really might be the sort of not the turning point in the game, but the fact that they have this compound here, it really puts Turkey in a tough position because they then have to maybe go for a crash, maybe go for something lucky. If they get in a position where they need to hit something that's so tough, it might just become unassailable for them.
Well, let's see. 13 minutes and not a single player dead yet. We've had 2 games that within this time frame have been game finished.
Yeah. I think that's just how Vikendi is. There's a lot of places you can...
You say that, but we got a 6-minute Vikendi game, so...
Yeah, that was... doesn't really count because of the brawl. But yeah, I think this... if you look at averages, I'd say Sanok is probably averaging like phase 3, phase 4. Erangel Miramar more like phase 4, phase 5. And on this, I think we often get to that phase 6 and maybe even phase 7. I think we saw phase 7 last time. So I think it's just, if you talk about the way maps play out, we say Sanhok is very different to the others in the way it plays out. In the way it's, it's much more about those early gunfights, Veturian and Miramar. But this one, it kind of feels like it's about getting your whole team to the late game. If you come into phase 5, phase 6 with a 4 or 5 man advantage, then you're in a really strong position, because then you get that big fight happen and you just overwhelm.
Well, let's see. Next circle shift could be telling of what's going to happen. I like how Blaze and Iro are playing that south side position down by the train station, because they have the potential to not maybe wrap around themselves, but they have they have a foot in the door right now. So
they're going to need one. They're really going to need one. Exactly. I think maybe there's an opportunity here where if Turkey can group up and crash that northern compound, there's only about 7 or 8 players there. There's that timing where because Russia's got isolated in this north and south group, Turkey can punish that, right? They can take control of one compound. And I think that's really the only play they have. If they take too long, if they let Russia properly set up to counter it, then realistically, this is all Russia's game. But if Turkey can take that fight and can win it, then they can flip it on its head.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to whether or not they can figure out which compound has less players in it, like which is more breachable. Because this is essentially the exact same situation that we saw in the other Vikendi game.
Just flipped on its head now.
Yeah, exactly, flipped around. So both of these teams have been in this position before. Danny is going to try and wrap around below. If he gets info that is completely clear down here, that could be huge. You can see, the timing. They're actually leaving now to try and drive behind. That is crucial. Daniman is going to be able to feed that info to his teammates, and that's going to make it so
crash the south
for them to really know anything. Now the crash is coming in, and they're going for the south compound. They need to execute this so fast. They need to split out. Look at this. It's like putting a stake in an ant farm. They're all over the place.
And the nades are flying in. The nades are doing so much damage right now, but Turkey are getting the trades. They're getting enough knocks that, at least for now, it's not looking too bad. They've got the initial man advantage. If they can get some reses in as well, maybe this is a win. But now Russia's reinforcing. They're sending the players in. I think Russia might be in the driving seat here, as Turkey's really got stuck in this one house.
I cannot tell who's winning right now. There's just a cluster. There's still a lot of Russian
players. So many knock players.
Yet. So many players going down. It's going to be right in the feet of Markle. He's going to go down as well. They're just kills coming in all over the place. Turkey finds their 10th. Even the game can't keep track of that, because they say that they only found 8 kills. So I don't know about that, but they need to get a foot in really quickly and kind of fight now.
How many players are knocked? But if Russia's going to start striking each other in the back, if they're going to start getting those team kills, making mistakes, Turkey comes in, returns the favor at least. Look how many knocked players there are in that compound. Realistically, it's something like a 10v10 at the minute. And Danimon's ripping them apart. He's got so many knocks from this side.
Wow.
It's just doing so much work, and that might be the winning play. Danimon's strikes there. He's going to get another one. Finally, Danimon goes down, but I think he got 5 or 6.
That is huge. There's still quite a few players live in that north side 1-story building. Kissy, you can see it trying to wrap around, but I cannot keep track anymore of who's up and who's down. The circle shifted north, so anyone who's knocked now, you better start calling, because you're not inside the next circle. We're seeing knocked players on all sides. Here comes a flush and one more. I believe that's Paul Derek going down. Yep, it is. This is a cluster, and I feel like that's Russia with the advantage. I honestly cannot tell.
Yeah, it definitely feels very equal still. If one team has the advantage, it's only 1 or 2 kills. But there's the one big problem right now for Turkey is that they're stuck on the south side, and they have that group to the north that's not having an impact right now. Sixmo, Kepper, and 10,000 days. They're not impacting this fight. They need to push from the north, come into this, trap Russia in this compound, and work as a group. It's definitely still winnable for both teams. But Makato, if he can get 2 here, he gets them both. There's a perfect play. He didn't even take any damage during the fight. He's going to get them 2. Should be able to flush them both and get a res to boot. Perfect for Russia.
Huge plays coming in. Now, there isn't any flushes on it just yet. As you can see, they are getting up and around on the other side. But here, more people waiting to try and do damage. And oh my lord, there's a lot of Russian in the kill feed now. Is this GG? I'm not sure. Lassa again is the player who's going to have to try and see if he can turn things around here. I believe we're looking at 5 or 6 Turkish players alive. Can he get the knock? Yes, he does. Code Marco finds a double knock outside the door, but look at the circle. It's pushing in already. It's phase 6. It's doing a ton of damage as well. And
if you wanted a game that's going to go right down to the wire, we're in game 7, and this could be it right here.
Oh, Kamako forgot. Did he forget? He knocked the players there. He just ran out in the open. And now suddenly a 2v9. I think it's all she wrote. But Metralius is still having an impact. Some players are getting knocked.
No.
There we go as he goes down. And Russia take it. Russia win the series 4-3.
They were down 3-1, and they take home 3 games in a row to win it. That is mind-boggling to me.
And I mean, we're coming into this, we were talking about, is this going to be a 4-0 Turkey? And the resilience from Russia, the performance later on in the series was incredible to see. And finally, Turkey are defeated. Finally, we have a new champion in Nations Royale. Russia stepping up to the plate to take it off Turkey.
That is insane. They get 3-0'd by Turkey. Look at this crash too. They get 3-0'd by Turkey. Then they 3-0 Ukraine to go into the finals. They start off, I don't want to say horribly, but they start off getting wrecked. And then something just clicked. I mean, they just, I don't know if they just, someone stole the playbook of the opposing team. They just started playing it really damn smart.
Yeah, this game here was so close though. The crash almost worked out. But I think once again, it's a credit to Russia for that full commitment, right? We had, I think, 5 or 6 Turkish players out on the north, really not having a big impact. And the Russian individual players like Makato, we saw also Danamon get a lot of kills on his own, Sebaraka striking from behind. All those individual players having such a big impact on this fight, and also a bunch of Turkish players not having an impact, was really why Russia eventually were able to trade it out. But it was such a close one right down to the wire. I think if Kodmarki had been able to flush those 3 kills outside his shack, if he'd run out and peek to left, then there was maybe an opportunity that we could have had like a 2v4, 2v5, that really it could have gone either way.
It could have. I feel like Circles had a pretty big impact in this one. So, I mean, Circle always have impact, and we've seen time and time again where you thought they would have impact, but it didn't. But this one most definitely did. I mean, you have a team that can just kind of lean back and chill in the compound, and then yes, I mean, Turkey does breach it, but it's it was a wild finish, and well deserved, to be fair, win for Russia to turn that one around.
Yeah, we're going to see exactly how they got here. We see they lost to Turkey previously in the upper semi-finals. They fought through the lowest bracket, defeating Finland, defeating Ukraine to get to the final. And I mean, realistically, maybe those extra games for Russia, maybe they got some extra experience.
Yeah.
You know, especially, I think, against Ukraine. That game that we saw, the momentum that I think coming into this, even though they were 3-1 down, they still in the back of their head knew, we could beat some of the good teams in this. We in those individual games, we can still be good. And then they come into that finals, they show the resilience that team has to take the last 3 games in a row is incredible to see. And also, I kind of feel like maybe Turkey started changing up their style a little bit. Especially in not necessarily in the last game, but the 2 before, they started spreading out. They were less coherent as a team. And I don't want to say they threw, but there was definitely opportunities where they could have won all 3 of those games. And the fact they lost all 3 is surprising to see. And really, if you're a fan of Turkey, or if you're on that Turkish team, a little bit disappointing.
It's gonna sound weird, but I think they lost because they started getting circles. I mean, they literally started getting circles. That it didn't force them to, but it made the obvious decision, the obvious choice to spread out and kind of await. And that's just not the playstyle they have had success with. That's tough for them. But again, I mean, it's always great to see new people being able to come over and take the top. It should be I guess a even more kind of blood on the tooth for them to try and see if they can go and reclaim that championship for any Nations Royale tournaments to come.
Yeah, I think if we get a season 4, which I do hope we do, because Nations Royale is such a unique and fun thing to watch. But I'm really excited to see if we ever get a rematch. Russia versus Turkey round. I think it would be round 3, because I think in season 1 it was either the semi or the final as well. And also maybe round 4, because we saw it this season as well. So I'm kind of excited. One day, we have that storyline where the challenges to the throne have finally taken it off them, but can the old guard strike back?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully there will be more seasons to come. That's not confirmed, at least not on my part yet. Guys, thank you all so much for tuning in for this tournament. It's been amazing to be bringing it all to you from our homes. And on behalf of GLL, on behalf of myself, on behalf of Saint, on behalf of Tala, on behalf of everyone who has been part of this production. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and hope to see you guys in the future.